Good evening, Oakland and beyond. Hey, I know, been a week since we were originally supposed to come at you, and after a delay from us originally having to do this little shindig last week, we coming at you here on a Wednesday night here in the Diamond District of Oakland, California. And I hope everybody out there that's tuning in from either Oaktown, the East Bay, the Greater Bay Area, the state of California, and of course beyond worldwide, and even if we have extraterrestrials that for some oddball reason catch this little crazy podcast, welcome as always, and let's go ahead and continue on down the road here on the 20th anniversary season of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland, for now, athletics. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to show number 330, the belated 2023 All-Star edition of A's Fan Radio. Hope everyone is doing good out there on this Wednesday night. It is the legally 5150 Cpl Oaktown, who will be coming at you solo for this 2-week recap edition of AFR, as Bossman had coaching obligations going on earlier this evening that ran a little bit later than planned, and Wifey was also a little late getting home today from work, so had to help out with making sure things with dinner got started a little ahead of time, had to make sure the animals were all taken care of, and that's why we're coming at you hour later than we originally planned on today. And by the way, regardless if this, with it being this week's show or had it been the schedule we stuck to originally, the plan was already to come at y'all live on a Wednesday this week for two obvious reasons. One, tomorrow it's a night game going on down at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, and also tomorrow on my end it's the third anniversary of when my aunt was killed, unfortunately, in an arson fire back up in Reno, Nevada in 2020. So kind of a day where myself and the family kind of want to focus on, mourning, celebrating my aunt's life, and just keeping an eye on each other. And of course, also this weekend got the 1-year anniversary of Godfather Grizz Jones leaving us and heading to the Coliseum in the Sky that we're going to go up and do. And I'll have info about things with that. Forever Oakland, may as well spit it out now. Forever Oakland's going to be holding a little shindig out on Knob Alley, starting basically about 2, 3 o'clock or so, and going on through the fireworks that are going on in the game that night. So if anyone wants to come out and partake in that, y'all are, of course, welcome to do that. Again, as mentioned, just me coming at you here on this edition of tonight's show, as Boss had coaching obligations he had to deal with and will not be joining us, which means, you're going to be stuck with this legally 5150 mofo coming at you for what will easily be, for sure, at the least, a 2.5-hour recap edition of the show. Could be longer. Could be a 3-hour show, which means we could be running past midnight with this bad boy. I know a lot of you out there, obviously, that have been listening to this show for the entirety of the 20 years we've been coming out in the air. This is nothing new for you, for the show to come at you at 9 p.m. It's a little weird, obviously, for it to be on a Wednesday, probably for those of you, but y'all that have been following us since we first started doing the show back in 2003, we used to basically always do the broadcast starting at 9 p.m. and running through roughly about 11. That was back when this whole thing started off at La Estrelita over there on 5th Avenue and East 12th Street near downtown Oakland, because back then Jose had the restaurant and the bar, or at least the bar portion, open until 11 p.m. That obviously changed in later years when we went back with the show after I brought it back from a 4-year hiatus. We ended up doing 7 to 9 over there. But, yours truly, I'm not, this is nothing new for me doing a broadcast at this point in time. But again, obviously, with the night game tomorrow and the other stuff that I mentioned as well, that's why we're coming at you with a Wednesday edition of the show this week. And it again is the belated All-Star break edition of the show, since we didn't recap all that this last week. So obviously you got the 3 games that the A's played before the break to look forward to hearing recaps of, or not looking forward to hearing recaps of, everything that went down during the All-Star break, and of course the games that the A's have played since the All-Star break coming into now. There won't be a Bear Raid segment on this week's edition of the show. Again, it's probably going to be a while before anything Bear Raid, either segment-wise or the show, goes down. The show version of the Bear Raid, of course, is in a summer hibernation. Will be returning to its every other week broadcasting format on Sundays starting on August the 27th. So where the Bear Raid segment would normally go down, that's where I'll be taking a look at the 2023 MLB draft class for your Oakland Athletics. And, of course, obviously, before the night's over with, checking on 2 weeks' worth of action for the Oakland Roots and see what they got on tap between now and next week's edition of the show. And, of course, given that it's a minute after 9:05, and if for some reason you haven't had a chance to answer or throw a response at that bad boy since it went up at 5 p.m., yes, there is a fan question of the night sitting out there for tonight's edition of A's Fan Radio. And, of course, I'll do the reminders as usual on these broadcasts during the end of the segments right before we go into our break. So, yeah, go ahead and file in those responses to those. You can respond to those by looking for the posts or tweets related to the fan question of the night on either our Facebook page, facebook.com/A's Fan Radio, which just recently updated to the new page format. I'm kind of pissed about that. I preferred the classic format, and it was kind of one of the last pages that I admin on that had the classic format on. But, yeah, so much for that. So, yeah, our Facebook followers, facebook.com/A's Fan Radio. That's where you can find all the posts related to the fan question of the night. And, of course, for y'all that follow us over on the Bird app, at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter, and just look for any tweets or quoted tweets that say anything. Just follow the directions, submit your responses, and I'll read all them bad boys off at the end of tonight's show. Obviously, given what's going on at this point in time, I missed the fact that it was Howard Terminal updates that we usually used to do at this point in time. But that's obviously changed in the last several months. And before we get into the usual shenanigans of recapping game action for your Oakland Athletics, as well as everything that went down during the 2023 All-Star break, obviously, latest developments in things with the future of this baseball franchise that we all currently cheer for. Are they going to end up going to Las Vegas? Is the whole thing going to fall apart, and are they going to end up staying in Oakland? Is some other situation that nobody has figured out or possibly predicted going to end up playing out? You're at a point in time here now where, if y'all remember, there was supposed to be some sort of ceremonial signing for the passage of SB 1 2 weeks after the Nevada legislature passed it. That still hasn't happened yet. You've obviously had schools against stadiums and other educators and unions and whatnot and other individuals down there that are coming up against this whole thing with the legislation being passed down there, and are looking for ways to obviously put it on the ballot next year to shoot it down or do other things between then. Complaints have been lodged about it, and just the A's and Nevada legislation just completely getting reamed week in and week out when it comes to this. Apparently they brought in an advisor that was involved with things with the Niners Stadium, which was a complete nightmare as far as, funding went with that. So probably not the best idea to bring up with that, some more egg in the face. And then you had that whole situation with that celebrity softball tournament where it sounded like the community fund was going to be paying in for that, which we all know technically with the status that they have, that's not legal to be sending money that's supposed to be intended for Oakland and East Bay charities to an event in Vegas. So the A's ended up with egg on their face with that and had to clarify, oh no, the team's throwing in money for this. So just it continues to be a total disaster and shit show with this whole situation of them trying to move forward here. They've obviously, though, have made the application or have applied to try to relocate to Vegas. We're still waiting to find out when the whole relocation committee is supposed to meet and discuss things with all that. And that, of course, is a committee that consists of 3 MLB owners, the owners of the Brewers, the Royals, and the Phillies are going to be the ones that are involved with that, and then they would forward their recommendation up to the other owners to obviously vote on at some point in time, and we still have no idea or any clue of when all that was going to go down. You had, knucklehead usually always wrong about things Bob Nightingale talking about it was going to happen within weeks of SB 1 being passed. That obviously hasn't happened. And, oh yeah, it's real funny too, before I get sidetracked and forget this, that Mike Akers continues to end up with egg on his face and complete total crap sellout journalism that's not even journalism when it comes to covering everything with all this. So, but yeah, just, continues to, again, just pretty much be a complete total shit show and nightmare for A's ownership and anyone involved with wanting to make this happen. Obviously, some news coming out as far as efforts on Oakland's end of things to fight to keep the team in Oakland. Oakland Mayor Shang Tao heading up to Seattle right before the All-Star break to apparently have a secret meeting with MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred and also the Vice Commissioner of MLB as well as present for that. And that was basically for Shang to make the whole case that all this information out there that supposedly nothing got done, there was no concrete deal, da-da-da-da-da. Shang basically went up there to let Manfred know Cavell Fisher and Company, they've been bullshitting you on telling us that nothing's been done. And she basically brought roughly 32 packets, booklets, whatever you want to call it, that basically details everything that went down from when this whole thing with Howard Terminal started up until when that ballpark summit that was supposed to happen, where things were going to either happen one way or another on things being finalized with that before the A's pulled out and then, went with the whole Wild Wild West site at that point in time. But yeah, Shang basically going up there with obviously a copy for Manfred, copy for the vice commissioner, and then the other 30 copies going to the other owners, including one for John Fisher as well. So go figure with that one. So I'm very happy that Shang did that, and it pleased, of course, a lot of individuals out there that wanted to see her either reach out to Manfred, at least make a call to Manfred. But that was going above and beyond, was actually going out there and physically meeting with Manfred and doing that. And of course, Manfred, still talked a bunch of crap afterwards. Oh, the political process, no concrete deal. Whatever. Shut up, you fraudulent piece of crap. You make Roger Goodell look competent, you dodo. Shout out to Eric Mad Dog Manson who came up with that one. But yeah, just great to see Shang go up there and basically show that, the A's are not telling the truth about how things went with this. And it continues to have me hammer home a point that I've mentioned on our social media pages and I've mentioned in the past here on A's Fan Radio, and I'm pretty sure over on the Bear Rate as well. Cal alumni are natural-born leaders, ladies and gentlemen. Unless, of course, there's any Abraham, but we all know the deal with that. So I'm not surprised that, Shang went about doing things the way she did, and, definitely needs to continue to push the issue with that. Just, I would definitely, if I were her, I would, figure out a way to either have some sort of communication with that relocation committee or even pull off the same thing she did up there and try to meet with these guys individually and make the whole case with that. And I would even take it a step further and make sure to, individually send out things related to those packages just in case if Manfred didn't hand off things like he was supposed to up there. Other thing as well, shout out to the Oakland 68s and all the Oakland Athletics fans that went up to Seattle for the All-Star break festivities. First thing I wanted to touch base on in regards to that, obviously, were the A's fans and baseball fans in general that were at the MLB draft and started to sell the team chant when the Oakland Athletics made their pick. Love and appreciation to y'all because y'all got Manfred pissed the hell off when y'all did that, and rightfully so. He deserves to look like a complete total jackass and have egg on his face with the way he's handling this whole situation. So again, shout out to those at the draft that went about doing that. You, of course, had fans throughout the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game itself that were roaming around there with sell T-shirts successfully yet again, just like during the reverse boycott. The Oakland 68s and Oakland A's fans who were up there got fans to do the silent stand during the fifth inning and then follow things off with a sell the team chant. They also, again, did the sell the team chant when lone A's All-Star Brent Rooker ended up getting a ground rule double, and it was audible pretty much both times on there, though people kind of gave MLB crap because they had, I guess, Ken Rosenthal interviewed Shohei Ohtani during that time, almost as if they were doing that intentionally, and, Rosenthal said, for the record, that wasn't his plan. He wasn't trying to do that intentionally, so that's, who knows if that was the case or not. But people that obviously posted videos to all the various social media platforms out there of what went down during that fifth inning, you can hear the chant audible as hell. Obviously not as loud as it was at the Coliseum when the reverse boycott game went down last month on the 13th, but still definitely appreciative of all that. And, also appreciative to, to that guy you saw that was part of our intro there, that dude holding up that sign and just, the 68s getting together and everybody out there passing on the info and trying to, make sure everybody knows, what's really going on here and that we're basically getting screwed over by a ownership that just is incompetent and has been incompetent for going on 2 decades and continuing a string of incompetence dating back to when Walter Haas sold the team to Schottenhaufen back in '95. So everyone out there, all our fellow A's fans out there, and Mayor Tao, if you happen to be listening in, or I know somebody will probably hit you back with something from this, keep fighting, keep pushing, don't give up, keep raising the pressure and keep lighting a fire to the asses of all the individuals that are guilty behind this. And that's regardless if you feel that things with this can turn around, you feel like that the A's are gone for sure at this point. If you're an individual that's still on the fence, 50-50 about what the hell's going to happen here. Just do not give up, keep the pressure up, and even if things don't go our way, what I ultimately want to see, as I've stated before, is that people see what happened here and recognize this and learn from it going forward. So this crap doesn't happen again, not just in MLB, but in professional sports here in America altogether. Again, we need to get to the point where it's like European sports. When a team tries to relocate, the entire country goes ape shit about it and shoots it down. It is great to see that more than I expected in the baseball world, at least here in the States, and just even also from around the world, the individuals that do support wanting to see the A's in Oakland. For that 10 to 15% of lame-ass trolls out there, do something with your life, man. Be better yourselves than being a lame-ass retrend internet troll that just, gets a high off of starting shit. Go do something with your life. Read a fucking book or some shit. Stop starting shit on the internet with people. Anywho, that's the latest on things at this point in time with what's going on with the future of the Oakland Athletics. And, of course, as always, either here on the show or in between shows, if we're not on the air, obviously, keep your eyes open to updates on our social media pages. And, of course, you know who to go to for updates as well if you don't see anything from us, and you know who to avoid out there as far as any sort of updates because they're misleading and fraudulent BS because of those individuals' personal feelings on the matter. All righty, let's go ahead and begin 2 weeks' worth of A's recap action that also includes recapping what went down during the All-Star break. We, of course, here in the first segment of tonight's show, we will take a look at the games that the A's played right before the break and also take a look at what went down during the All-Star break. And then, of course, during the next segment of tonight's show, we will take a look at everything that has gone down for the A's since the All-Star break going into today. We, of course, go back to a road trip that would be, of course, the final 3 games of the All-Star break portion of the schedule for your Oakland Athletics. And they would finish off the pre-All-Star break edition of the 2023 season on the road against an AL East opponent as they, of course, would head on into Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts to take on the AL East Boston Red Sox. 3-game series that, of course, went down from July the 7th through July the 9th. Again, these were the last 3 games that the A's played before the All-Star break kicked in. As always, it seems like it's nothing new over here. Waiting on good old MLB game day to load so that way we can begin things with recapping Game 1 of this 3-game series between Oaktown and Beantown. Again, final 3 games before the 2023 All-Star break. This game, of course, going down back on, I believe it was Friday, July the 7th. Yep, that'd be correct. Friday, July the 7th. Here's what went down with this one. The Red Sox would get on the board first in this contest as they would score 5 runs to begin things in the bottom half of the second inning. The Oakland Athletics would not get on the board until the top half of the 5th inning, and they would only score 1 measly, dinky run in the top half of the 5th. They would add on, though, with 2 runs in the top of the 7th to cut that lead that the Red Sox had to a 2-run lead at that point. But unfortunately, the A's wouldn't be able to do anything for that, and the Red Sox, of course, would answer back to that 2-run spot that the A's got with 2 runs of their own in that bottom half of the 7th inning. Wouldn't be any scoring the rest of the way out, so when it was all said and done with this one, the Red Sox getting the W to open up this 3-game set at Fenway, winning this one by a final score of 7-3. Boston, 7 runs, 10 hits, 1 error. Oakland, 3 runs, 7 hits, no errors in this one. Pivetta picking up the win for Boston as he improves to 5-5 on the year. Long taking the loss for Oakland as he falls to 0-1 on the year. Home runs in this one over on the A's side. You had Seth Brown hitting his 8th Brownie bomb of the season, and only home run by either team in this contest. Again, I think I mentioned this when we came at you the last time with the belated 4th of July edition of the show. I wasn't going to be shocked if the A's basically got, mollywopped to stomped in this 3-game set right before the break. Not really a big shellac in here. You had a point where you were within 2 runs of Boston in this one, but as we have seen, unfortunately, time and time again with what I dubbed back in the offseason, what was most likely and has continued to be rooted in straight donkey ass 2.0 for your Oakland Athletics. And that's not just on the field, it's off the field as well. Not shocked by this outcome, and honestly, I'm not going to be shocked with how things end up playing out over the remainder of this series before the A's and the other 29 teams would head in to the All-Star break. Let's go ahead and see what went down in Game 2 of this three-game set between Oakland and Boston. If you thought the first game was ugly, you ain't seen nothing yet. Here's what went down in Game 2, which, of course, went down on Saturday, July the 8th. The Red Sox would score first again for the second time in 2 games, as they would score 3 runs in the bottom of the first, 2 runs in the bottom of the second, before the A's would finally get on the board with a single run in the top half of the third inning. The Red Sox would answer back with a single run of their own in the bottom half of that third inning. They would then go on to score 1 run in the bottom of the fourth and 2 runs in the bottom of the fifth, before both the A's and Boston would each get single runs apiece in the 6th inning of the contest. The A's would score what would ultimately be their final run of the contest in the top of the 8th, and that would be damn well near not enough to catch up to the Red Sox in this one. As for the second day in a row, Boston gets the W, and of course with the W secures the series victory, winning this one by a final score of 10-3. Boston, 10 runs, 15 hits, 1 error. Oakland, 3 runs, 9 hits, 1 error in that Saturday contest. Paxton picking up the win for the Red Sox as he improves to 5-1 on the year. Pruitt taking the loss for the Athletics. He falls to 1-6 on the season. And Walter picking up his first save of the year for Beantown in this one. Home runs in the contest. Over on the A's side, you had Pena hit his first of the year. Rooker, of course, was the A's lone All-Star representative, hitting his 15th jack of the season. Over on the Beantown side of things, Verdugo went deep for the 7th time in 2023. Duran hit his 5th, as well as he accounted for the 2nd home run for the Red Sox in this one. And again, as I mentioned, not shocked by what's going on here at this point, unfortunately, for the green and gold. It's been the case all year where they have games where they're either able to play really close throughout the majority of it and then lose it all in the end, have games that are close and then they just completely run away from them, like this here, or just games where they have no control of anything at all and they just get blown the hell out and don't do jack diddly squat. And not doing well, that wouldn't be the case with the final game of the series and the final game before the All-Star break. Let's go ahead and see what went down in the finale of this 3-game series between the Elephants and the Red Stockings at Fenway Park. The finale, of course, of this 3-game series between Oakland and Boston going down on Sunday, July the 9th. As, of course, I have to once again wait for the MLB Game Day wrap to load for me to get the damn box score for this game. Damn. Fuck, even in the future, nothing works, as they once apparently said on Spaceballs. The A's would actually score first to begin things in the final game of this 3-game series. That 1-run lead, though, would not last long, however, as Boston would promptly tie up the game at 1-all with a single run in the bottom half of that first inning. The A's would retake the lead, though, with a single run in the top half of the second, and then would add on to that with a single run in the top of the fifth. Unfortunately for them, they would put up nothing but goose eggs as far as runs went the rest of the way out, and that wouldn't be the case for the Red Sox, as they would tie up the game with 2 runs in the bottom half of the 6th, and then ultimately score the go-ahead run in the bottom half of the 8th inning to pick up the W and sweep the Elephants out of Boston as they win the finale of the 3-game series over the Athletics by a final score of 4-3. Boston, 4 runs, 7 hits, 1 error. Oakland, 3 runs, 11 hits, 2 errors in that Sunday contest. Martin picking up the win for Boston as he improves to 3-1 on the year. Wadelchuk takes the loss for Oakland in this one as he falls to 2-6 on the year. And Jansen picks up his 19th save of the season for Boston in this one. Home runs in the contest, the lone ding-dong doodle for the green and gold coming off the bat of Brent Rooker as he hits his 16th homer of the year. Over on the Red Sox side of things, we had Duvall go deep for the 6th time this year, and Yoshida hitting his 10th bomb of the year for Boston in that one. So, yeah, unfortunately, ended up kind of playing out the way that I unfortunately thought it was going to play out. I kind of expected things to look maybe more like how the first 2 games of the series went for the Oakland Athletics, where they basically, played close and then got blown out, or I was even expecting just a straight, blowout ass whooping to happen at some point. Luckily, us, I guess you can say, didn't end up happening in that series, but again, just unfortunately, not surprising given how this team has been playing going on basically the last year and a half since, as always, the end of that 5-year cycle when they actually have some talent here, blew the team up after 2021, and of course all the other shenanigans and BS that are going on off the field with this damn franchise. So on that note, that would mean that the A's would head in to the All-Star break with a record of 25-67, which of course is the last place spot in the American League West. Let's go ahead now and take a break from recapping Oakland A's action, even though there will be some Oakland Athletics that will be talked about at various points here during this next portion. But we're going to go ahead now and, hey, this is the belated All-Star break edition of the show, so we do have to take a look at what went down during this year's 2023 All-Star break, which obviously went down from July 10th through the 13th, though you had a game that's part of the festivities that went down on July the 8th. Before this all went down. This, of course, kind of what ends up usually happening. I want to say for the last several years, usually on either the Saturday or the Sunday before the All-Star break, you have what they've apparently dubbed as the MLB All-Star Futures Game, where baseball's top prospects from all 30 teams get to come in and basically showcase their talent at the location of that year's All-Star Game. In the past, it's been, I want to say in the past when they first started doing this, it initially was, I think it was North America versus the world. Last couple of years, forgot exactly when, or maybe I'm even off. And it's this year they started. They've kind of gone now to similar format that the actual All-Star game is, which is the AL prospects versus the NL prospects. And here is what went down in that MLB MLB All-Star Futures game, which of course was played at T-Mobile Park, formerly Safeco Field, up in the 206 of Seattle back on July the 8th. Let's put it this way. The AL Futures would put up nada in this one. Nada, zilch, noi. Goose eggs through all 9 frames for the AL Future All-Stars in this one. Wouldn't be the case, though, obviously, for the NL Future All-Stars, as they would basically just need 2 innings to do all their scoring in, 2 runs in the top of the second, and what would be their final 3 runs of the contest in the top of the 6th inning, as the NL Futures take this year's edition of the All-Star Futures game, winning by a final score of 5-0. The NL Futures, 5 runs, 5 hits, no errors. The AL Futures, no runs, 6 hits, no errors in that contest. Abel picking up the win for the NL side, and Klein taking the loss for the AL side in that one. Obviously, no home runs for the AL Futures. They didn't score a single damn run over the course of that contest. No home runs, however, either for the NL Future All-Stars in that one. For those of you that are wondering, in case you weren't following along things with that because you may have been watching the A's play against Boston or had other things going on at that point in time, for you wondering, yes, there were a couple Oakland Athletics that were involved in that Futures game. And that, of course, was number 1 prospect and the top, the 35th overall top prospect in baseball, Tyler Soderstrom, who, of course, is a first baseman and a catcher. And there'll be a little bit more news related to him that I'll be touching bases on when we get into the next segment of tonight's show. But Soderstrom played in that MLB All-Star Futures game on July the 8th. He ended up, he was the starter, by the way, for the AL side, and he went 1 for 2 in the contest. He hit a single, which was his lone hit of the game. He went on to strike out later in the contest, and then he drew a walk in his final plate appearance of the game. The other individual that played was Lawrence Butler, who's a first baseman and outfielder, and he's the number 7th prospect in the A's farm system. He had 3 at-bats during the course of the night. He struck out once and grounded out twice to end the evening with an 0 for 3 clip at the plate. So the group that kind of dubbed itself Future Oakland, but given the way things are looking, some are saying that they should be labeling themselves Future Vegas. I'll leave that up to debate for you who's up there. Potential future of the Oakland Athletics on display, or potential future trading chips for the A's, or potentially those guys that, hey, if you get good, A's are going to ship your ass out or let you walk as a free agent anyway. But a couple future pieces potentially of the green and gold on display in this one, as again the NL Future All-Stars shut out the AL Future All-Stars on July the 8th by a final score of 5-0. I'm going to skip over doing recaps of the celebrity softball game. Probably some of you don't even want to bother with that. For those of you that do, you can go look that up on your own. The next tidbit I'm going to touch bases on as we continue to recap things from the All-Star break here on tonight's show, since this is, again, after all, the belated All-Star break edition of A's Fan Radio. Home Run Derby would be the next thing on tap for us to discuss here, and that, of course, ended up going down on July the 10th. Again, all the All-Star festivities taking place at Safeco Field. Well, it used to be Safeco Field. It now, of course, is T-Mobile Park up there in Seattle, Washington. A derby that, of course, featured a two-time champ, the son of a derby champ, a hometown hero, an MVP, a native Northwesterner, and a trio of Cuban countrymen who all just took turns hitting moonshots into the night sky there at T-Mobile Park back on Monday, July the 10th. Ultimately, in the end, it would be, of course, the son of an individual that was known for hitting home runs off of pitches that were damn near his cleat string, his shoestrings on his cleats. Talking about, of course, none other than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He, of course, ended up being the winner of the 2023 Home Run Derby, joining his Hall of Fame dad, Vladimir Guerrero Sr., as the only father-son duo to win the Home Run Derby title. The Blue Jays slugger, who, of course, was seeded number 6, had to go through Mookie Betts in the opening round before dispatching of hometown hero Julio Rodriguez in the semifinals, and that was, of course, after the Seattle Star had set a Derby record with 41 homers in the opening round. Vlad Jr. then defeated Rays outfielder Randy Arozarena in an epic final showdown. Just great to see Vlad Jr. do that. Vlad Jr. is a guy that I've been following on and off as best as possible since before he even got into the majors, mainly because of, who his dad was. And it's just crazy looking at this kid. He literally looks like, his dad, if his dad was built as a linebacker. But he definitely, and I'm assuming that this was Vlad that obviously probably made sure to that, he definitely has better plate discipline than his father did. Doesn't really chase much of anything, but also as well, the one thing you can't do to him, at least from what I last saw, that the one thing you could do to get his pops out was to jam Vlad Jr. with fastballs up and in. Nah, can't do that on Senior. You basically could get him to strike out by jamming him with shit up and in. That happened in real life, and that's a fact because I used to do that in video games when I played against him using the A's or other teams. But yeah, can't do that to Junior, man. Junior can actually smack those up and in pitches out of the ballpark if he were to choose to. So shout out to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. joining his father, Vladimir Guerrero Sr., as the only father-son duo to win the Home Run Derby. Which means, hey, it's time to finally recap the last shindig of the All-Star break festivities, and that is the actual All-Star Game itself, the 93rd edition, by the way, of the All-Star Game, presented by MasterCard for anybody that gives a hoot about any of that stuff. Probably some of y'all may know this, may not have forgotten. There actually was a time when they used to do 2 All-Star Games. It's been very, very long, decades since that last happened, but I want to say back when that was the case, they, I want to say, did one roughly about around the time that they do the one that we're familiar with now, and then the second one would take place, I guess, after the season wrapped up. But this incarnation, of course, this is the 93rd time that this version of the All-Star Game went down. And, of course, just like everything else with the All-Star break festivities, this game as well taking place at T-Mobile Park in the 206. The AL All-Stars would score first in that contest on July the 11th when they would get their first run of the game in the bottom half of the second inning. The NL All-Stars would tie the game up at 1 run apiece with a single run of their own, which would come in the top of the 4th inning. There wouldn't be any scoring again until the bottom of the 6th, when the AL would score what would unfortunately end up being their final run of the contest, a single run in the bottom of the 6th. The NL All-Stars would score 2 runs to take the lead in the top half of the 8th inning and hold on to that lead as well, as for the first time in over a decade plus, it's the NL winning the All-Star game, as the NL All-Stars take the 93rd edition of the All-Star game by a final score of 3-2. NL All-Stars 3 runs, 9 hits, no errors. AL All-Stars 2 runs, 7 hits, 1 error in the contest. Duvall picking up the win for the NL, Batista taking the loss for the AL, and Kimbrel picking up the save for the NL in the 93rd edition of the All-Star game. Home runs in this one over on the excuse me here. Just want to make sure I got everything lined up and I'm looking at things correctly. Over on the NL side of things, they only had 1 home run, which of course came off the bat of Diaz, and there was only 1 home run hit in the AL side of things, and that was of course a Diaz that hit that one as well. For those of you, by the way, that are wondering what Brent Rooker ended up doing, he did get an at-bat in the contest. I'm just sitting here to look up and see where. There we go. He actually got 2 at bats in the contest. He ended up going 1 for 2. He of course got a ground rule double in the game. A whole bunch of former A's, of course, playing in this All-Star game. On the AL side, some of the former A's in the lineup were Marcus Semien. Let's see who else here. You had Jonah Heim, his father, of course, follows A's Fan Radio. Sean Murphy, of course, on the AL side. Matt Olson in there as well. Just, the what-ifs, man, when it comes to seeing some of the guys that were in there. Just is ridiculous what the current ownership and the ownership before them that bought this team off of Walter Haas has put us through. And that wraps up the recaps for the All-Star break festivities and brings us finally almost 40 minutes in to our first break of the night here on the belated All-Star break edition of A's Fan Radio. Before we take that break, however, of course, it's time for the first reminder for y'all to go ahead and submit responses to the fan question of the night if you haven't done so since it went out at 5 p.m. and all the other various times that it's gone out on our Facebook and Twitter pages tonight. So if you're one of those individuals that hasn't chimed in on that yet, make your way over to either facebook.com/A's Fan Radio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter and look for the post or tweet that says fan question of the night. Just follow the directions on how to submit it, submit your response, and I, of course, will read off all of your responses that y'all submit on that bad boy during the final segment of tonight's show. 2-part fan question for this week's fan question of the night. 1, we want to hear your thoughts on what A's fans and Mayor Tao accomplished in Seattle during the All-Star break. And 2, we want to hear your thoughts or predictions on what's going to happen for the Oakland Athletics in the post-All-Star break half of the 2023 MLB season. We come back, we'll take a look at the games that have went down since the end of the All-Star break for the green and gold, and of course a whole lot more to come your way before the night is over with here on show number 340, the belated 2023 All-Star Game edition of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics. A's Fan Radio. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Oakland Athletics fans tuning in from Oakland and beyond as we continue on down the road here on this Wednesday night on this belated All-Star break edition of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland, for now, Athletics. A's talk from the fans' point of view since 2003. Let's get right back down on things here on show number 340 of A's Fan Radio. It is, of course, the legally 5150 Cpl Oaktown Oaktown, coming at you solo for this 2-week recap edition of the show, as we ended up putting off things by a week when we were supposed to originally do this bad boy last week. Boss man having some coaching obligations he had to deal with this evening, so that's why this legally 5150 mofo is running his mouth all by himself on what potentially will be I'll estimate at least a 2.5+ hour show tonight, with good possibility that we could be running all the way up to or past midnight here on this one. But hey, that's what happens when you end up having to do 2-week recaps for the A's, recap the All-Star break, a whole bunch of other stuff that went down, because remember the draft went down while we were away as well. And then, of course, 2 weeks worth of stuff with the Oakland Roots as well. Luckily, nothing really major as far as Cal football related news, which is why we're not doing a Bear Raid segment tonight. But obviously, if there was anything major with that, we'd be discussing that as well. But as of right now, holding off on Bear Raid related stuff until the Bear Raid, the show version of the Bear Raid, by the way, comes back on August the 27th. And yeah, in case y'all didn't know, this channel that you're watching here, both Twitch and YouTube, obviously is the home for not just A's Fan Radio, it's also the home for the Bear Raid presented by Tightwad Hill. So you A's fans that also happen to be fans of Cal football or Cal athletics in general, be sure to check out the Bear Raid when it goes back on the air after its summer hibernation break on August the 27th. On that note, let's go ahead and continue on down the road with recapping game action for your Oakland Athletics. Previous segment, we, of course, checked up on what the A's did in their final 3 games before the All-Star break, which, of course, was being swept in Boston by the Boston Red Sox. Checked in on what went down with the Futures game, looked back at the Home Run Derby, and then recapped, of course, the 93rd edition of the All-Star game itself. With that all now behind us, let's go ahead and see what went down in the first 6 games of the post-All-Star break half of the 2023 season for your mine are, for now, beloved green and gold. They, of course, actually, before we get into all that, want to make sure that a little bit of news that obviously went down is before things went down with the team resuming things. The A's decided to go ahead and call up their top 2 prospects, as Tyler Soderstrom, who, of course, again, first baseman and catcher, and also happened to play in the All-Star Futures game that we recapped in the previous segment of tonight's show, getting the call up to the majors. And Nick Geloff, forgot his name, Geloff, the second baseman, getting the call up as well. A's, of course, clearing some moves, sending guys down, DFA and Yoo-hoo, stuff like that. So a little bit of the future starting to make its way up to Oakland here yet again. And again, the big question being, are these guys that are going to be part of things long-term? Will they get a chance to, if things get corrected like they should, play at a ballpark in Howard Terminal in Oakland? Are these Yoo-hoos unfortunately going to be part of the shit show in Las Vegas if, God forbid, relocation is allowed to go down with that? Do they not end up at the major league level with the A's at all? Do they end up getting sent out at some point? Or regardless where the A's are, things don't change in either location with this jackass ownership. Will they even be part of anything long-term in Oakland? But if they get good, they'll probably get... You know where I'm going with this, because unfortunately it's the same crap we've been dealing with for nearly 20+ years now with 2 different ownership groups. But individuals, by the way, who have already started to, get playing time since they've been called up and have made a little bit of impression so far since being called up, and will be interesting to see what happens with these guys, and if anybody else that's considered a top prospect for the team, the quote-unquote New Oakland or New Vegas or whatever the bloody hell you want to call that crap, if anyone from that next upcoming young group ends up being a part of the team or not going forward. Anyway, now let's go and recap the first 3 of 6 games that the A's have played since the season resumed on July the 14th. The A's playing all 6 of those games, by the way, back here at home at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. The first 3 games of that 6-game homestand going down against a team from a division that I'm pretty sure at this point in time is still straight up donkey doo-doo. That's just the AL Central as a whole. The Minnesota Twins coming into Oaktown for a 3-game set with their Oakland Athletics that went down from July the 14th to July the 16th. Let's go ahead and see what went down in game number 1 of that 3-game set with the Twinkies and the Elephants. That first game post-All-Star break, of course, going down at the ballpark in the Deep East on July the 14th, which was a Friday. Twinkies would score first in that Friday evening contest as they would score the first 2 runs of the game in the top half of the first inning. The A's would answer back, though, by getting within 1 run in the bottom of the second inning and then actually taking a brief 1-run lead after scoring 2 runs in the bottom of the third. That 1-run lead would be short-lived, however, as the Twins would tie things up with a single run in the top half of the fourth. Neither team would put any more runs on the board until the 9th inning, where the Twins would score what would be their final 2 runs of the contest. The A's were only able to get 1 run in the bottom half of that 9th inning, as the Twinkies take the opener of this 3-game series on a Friday in East Oakland by a final score of 5-4. My bad. I was about to give y'all the hits as the damn score. Sorry about that. 5-4 final in this Friday evening contest at the Oakland Coliseum. Minnesota, 5 runs, 10 hits, no errors. Oakland, 4 runs, 7 hits, no errors in the contest. Home runs in this one over on the Twinkie side of things. Gallo hit his 16th of the year. No ding-dong doodles for your Oakland Athletics in this one. Kind of a series where, since obviously we didn't get a chance to preview this with not doing the show as planned last week, it's one of those series where even with how the A's are, you would maybe and hopefully expect that given that the entire Central is straight-ass booty right now, that the A's maybe would actually get a chance to knock off some rare wins against these guys. But also at the same time, you shouldn't be shocked at all if they perform against these dookie booty teams the same way they performed against everybody else in 2023. Let's go ahead and take a look at what went down in game number 2 of this 3-game set between the Twinkies and the Elephants. This game, of course, going down on Saturday, July the 15th. Second day in a row that the Twins would score first in a contest, as they would score 2 runs at the top of the first, 2 runs at the top of the second, and another 2 runs at the top of the third before the A's would finally get on the board with a single run in the bottom of the third, and then would drop a 3-run spot to get within 2 of the Twins in the bottom of the fourth. The Twins, though, would score 1 run at the top of the fifth. The A's would answer back with 2 runs in the bottom of that 5th inning and a single run in the top of the 6th, though unfortunately they wouldn't be able to score anything the rest of the way out. The Twins, though, would score single runs in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings to get a W and secure the series victory in this Saturday contest in Oakland by a final score of 10-7. See, I knew there was a 10 out there. I just kind of was a game ahead on that 10 for one. Yeah, 10-7 final, Twinkies winning this one. Minnesota, 10 runs, 11 hits, no errors. Oakland, 7 runs, 10 hits, no errors in the contest. Moran picking up the win for Minnesota as he improves to 2-2 on the year. Tarnock taking the loss for Oakland. He falls to 0-1 on the year. And Duran picks up save number 14 on the year for the Twinkies. Home runs in this contest over on the Minnesota side, you had Taylor hit his 11th and Farmer hit his 5th. On the Oakland side of things, Noda hit his 10th. Brown hit his 9th Brownie bomb of the year as well in the loss for Oakland in that one. So, hey, close scoring games, but unfortunately, it's even one of those times where the Dookie Booty team from a Dookie Booty a Dookie Booty team from an entire Dookie Booty division is basically kind of taking to town. Luckily, close scoring games here, nothing all bigly blown out for the green and gold, unfortunately, but same old song and not a different beat since you've been gone in 2023. On that note, let's go ahead and see what went down in the finale of this 3-game set between your Oakland, for now, Athletics and the Minnesota Twins. The finale of the 3-game series, of course, going down at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum on Sunday, July the 16th. The A's would actually score first in a contest finally during this 3-game series. They would score the first run into the game in the form of 1 run, in the bottom half of the 2nd inning. They would score 2 runs as well in the bottom of the 4th inning before the Twins would finally get on the board with 2 runs of their own. The Twins would add on a 3-run spot in the top of the 7th, while the A's would score what would be their final run of the contest in the bottom of that 7th inning. And unfortunately, when it was all said and done, would be handed a sweep to lead things off in the post-All-Star break half of the 2023 season. The Twins defeating your Oakland Athletics in yet another close game in this 3-game set, winning by a final score of 5-4. Minnesota, 5 runs, 6 hits, no errors. Oakland, 4 runs, 7 hits, no errors in that Sunday contest in the Deep East. Lopez picking up the win for the Twinkies as he improves to 3-2 on the year. Erceg, E-R-C-E-G, taking the loss for Oakland as he falls to 2-1 on the year. And Durand picks up his 15th save of the year for Minnesota in that one. Home runs in the contest, 2 over on the Minnesota side of things as Vasquez hit his 2nd of the year, and Krylov hitting his 5th of the year. Diaz hit the lone homer for the Elephants in this one, and it was his 6th homer of the year in that game. So, yeah, unfortunately, hoping that these guys could have maybe picked up a series win, maybe have gotten lucky and somehow swept a team that is from a division that just stinks to high heaven in 2023. But, yeah, ends up not being the case for your Oakland Athletics as they get swept in the first 3 games of this 6-game homestand that just wrapped up earlier today at the Coliseum. That, of course, would bring us to the final 3 games of that homestand as a team that swept the A's right before the All-Star break came into town to take them on again as for the second time in a week, your Oakland Athletics battle out against for the second time in basically almost a week, 2 weeks really, that your Oakland Athletics face off against the Boston Red Sox, this time, of course, at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. Let's go ahead and take a look at what went down in the first game of this 3-game series that, of course, going down on Monday, July the 17th at what was Native American Heritage Night out there at the ballpark, which, again, want to make sure to put this out there for the so-called diversity that Major League Baseball is trying to pitch for having events like that going down at A's games kind of, again, is ridiculous and stupid and just plain freaking dumb that you want to move a team out of what's basically your most diverse city out of all the 30 cities that have Major League Baseball. Again, just want to continue to emphasize that. Hashtag Fisher out, hashtag sell, and all those other good hashtags that we've been using since this BS started back in April. Anyway, let's go ahead and see how things played out in the first game of this 3-game series between Beantown and Oaktown at the Collie in the Deep East. It would end up being a little bit of an ugly one for the Green and Gold as they would not score jack diddly squat in any of the 9 frames in this contest. Unfortunately for them as well, that wouldn't be the case for the Red Stockings, as they would score 1 run in the top of the first, 1 run in the top of the second, 4 runs in the bottom of the 6th, or top of the 6th, excuse me, and what would ultimately be their final single run of the contest in the top of the 9th, as the Red Sox shut out the A's to open up this 3-game series at the Coliseum, taking Game 1 by a final score of 7-0. Boston 7 runs, 10 hits, no errors. Oakland no runs, 1 hit, no error in that contest. No home runs for the Red Sox in this one, and obviously no ding-dong doodles at all for the A's because they didn't score anything. Pivetta picking up the win, by the way, before I make sure to end up, not forgetting to put that out there. Pivetta picking up the win for the Red Sox. He improves to 6-5 on the year. Paul Blackburn taking the loss for Oakland as he falls to 1-2 on the year. Not shocked, that this ended up happening. They, kind of saw things like that go down in the first 2 games, though this time they get completely shut out in a matchup against Boston. But, it happens sometimes. It is what it is, and again, shouldn't be shocked at all with how things ultimately played out with that one. Second game of the series, for some reason, there's no link to a box score on there for the contest. Or, hey, there we go, for some reason. I was about to say, wait a minute, where the hell's the damn box score for the contest? But there is one there, and it would actually be a little bit of a turning point for things, at least for this series of games for the Oakland Athletics, as shockingly, it would be for the first time in a while that the Green and Gold would not be on the losing side of things. Let's go ahead and take a look back at what went down in Game 2 of this 3-game set between the Boston Red Sox and your Oakland Athletics. Game number 2, of course, going down on a Tuesday night at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum in Oakland. The A's would only need 1 inning in this game to get their runs across. They would score 3 runs in this one, and all 3 of them would come in the bottom half of the second inning. Luckily for them, they were actually able to hold the Beantown Red Stockings to goose eggs through the entire 9 frames of this contest. I know, kind of a little shocking to see that, given how this damn squad's been. But hey, it's baseball. Crazy shit happens every now and then, and even a, stinky, dusty squad like the A's in 2023 will have things like this happen. And obviously, the few Yankee fans we know out there, specifically our longtime associate Tad Dillinger from up on Tightwad Hill, and of course my old roommate Ron, are appreciative of how things went down in this one. Your Oakland Athletics picking up a victory in the second game of the series to draw the series even at 1 game each, winning Game 2 on July the 16th by a final score of 3-0. Oakland, 3 runs, 7 hits, no errors. Boston, no runs, 5 hits, 3 errors in that Tuesday evening contest. Medina picking up the win for Oaktown as he improves to 3-7 on the year. Jocks, I believe, taking the loss for Beantown as he falls to 1-1 on the year. Trevor May picks up save number 7 for the Elephants in that one. Home runs in this contest, obviously no one on the Boston side got a home run because they didn't score any runs. On the Oakland side of things, you had Noda go deep for the 11th time, and Belated hitting his 6th bomb of the year in that one. So obviously not an amounts of big-ass score like what Boston just did to you the previous day. But after basically losing 4 straight games to these bastards from Beantown in a 2-week span, a little nice, especially with how this squad is. To see him pick up a W like this, hey, regardless how we feel, sometimes I guess you got to just enjoy the little small victories that come every now and then for this green and gold squad. And let's go ahead and see if they would stay on those winning side of things, shockingly, or if, as they usually have for the most part in 2023, they quickly get kicked back to the L side of the bracket. Let's find out who would end up taking the rubber match, Game 3 of this series between Boston and Oaktown. Game 3, of course, going down earlier today, Wednesday, July the 19th. As yet again, I wait for the MLB box score to load, even though y'all are already looking at that damn score there. So yeah, be patient with me. Again, just would be nice if technology would move a little faster when you need it to go. There we go. Little bit of a back and forth battle between these two teams to close out the finale of this 3-game series and the finale of this 6-game homestand for your Oakland Athletics. Or excuse me, it's not a 6-game homestand. My bad. It's a 10-game homestand. My bad. I forgot that there was 4 more games that are happening, which, of course, we will preview in the next segment of tonight's show. So there I go again, getting my numbers mixed up. So, yeah, homestand not over with yet after this one. But, yeah, anywho, let's go ahead and take a look at what went down in the game that went down earlier today between the A's and the Red Sox. Again, as I mentioned, a little bit of a back-and-forth contest as both teams would each score 2 runs in the first inning of the game. The A's would take a 4-2 lead with a 2-run spot in the bottom of the second inning, add on to that lead with 2 runs in the bottom of the fourth before Boston would start to catch up with 2 runs in the top of the fifth and a single run in the top of the sixth. Unfortunately for Boston, they wouldn't score anything else the rest of the way out, and luckily for the A's, that was a good thing because they didn't score anything either after the fourth inning in this one, as the A's pick up a W and a rare series win here at the Coliseum earlier this afternoon, defeating Boston by a final score of 6-5. Oakland, 6 runs, 10 hits, 4 errors. Boston, 5 runs, 6 hits, no errors in this afternoon's contest. Felipe picking up the win for Oakland as he improves to 1-0 on the year. Bello taking the loss for Boston as he falls to 7-6 on the year. Trevor May picks up his 8th save of the year in this one. Home runs in the contest, a lone home run for Boston coming off the bat of Turner. It was his 15th homer of the year. Had a couple Oakland Athletics go deep in this one as Belated hit his 7th homer of the year. Cody Thomas, who just got called up recently, hitting his first homer of the year and the first homer of his major league career. So congratulations to that young man on getting his first career ding-dong doodle earlier this afternoon. And the final homer that was hit by the A's in this one coming off the bat of Peterson, his 6th bomb of the year in today's contest. So, hey, enjoy it, young guys. You actually were able to pick up a series victory against a Boston Red Sox team that's competing in a AL East division that has pretty much damn near all the teams above or at 500, and some are close, some look like they might be fading off. Gonna have to obviously wait and see how things go down with that in the post All-Star break half of the season. But hey, enjoy it while you're able to, because again, with unfortunately how this team's been playing the last year and a half, who knows when we're going to see another series win or a just win period when it comes to these green and gold young guns on the field. Reminder that there is a fan question of the night sitting out there for this belated All-Star break edition of the show. So if you haven't had a chance to do so yet, be sure to make your way over to either facebook.com/AsFanRadio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter to submit your responses to tonight's fan question of the night. Just look for the poster tweet that says fan question of the night on it. Follow the directions, submit your responses, and I, of course, will read off all of the responses that y'all submit during the final segment of tonight's broadcast. Two-part fan question for show number 330 of 340, of AFR. We want to, one, hear your thoughts on what A's fans and Mayor Tao accomplished in Seattle during the All-Star break, and two, we want to also hear your predictions on how the Oakland Athletics will fare during the post-All-Star break portion of the 2023 MLB season. We come back, we'll take a look ahead to what the A's have on tap between now and next week's edition of the show, and of course take a look at the most recent roster transactions that your Oakland A's have made before we head on into the seventh inning stretch. And of course we still got the good old entire X-rated second half to come your way as well. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back at you here in a bit on show number 340, the belated 2023 All-Star break edition of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, A's Fan Radio. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to wrap things up here in the first half of tonight's two-week recap edition of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland, for now, Athletics. A's talk from the fans' point of view since 2003. It is, of course, our 20th anniversary season on the air, and since the All-Star break just came and gone and we didn't do things like we were supposed to last week, it is, of course, the belated All-Star break edition of AFR. It's, of course, the 340th edition of the broadcast since I brought AFR back from a 4-year hiatus back in 2011. Legally 5150 Cpl Oaktown coming at you solo for this 2-week recap edition of the show. Bossman having the night off as he had coaching obligations that he had to address at this evening, as we, of course, catch up on how things went down for the A's before the break, after the break, and, of course, everything that went down during the break. I want to say the only thing from during the break we haven't touched on yet is the MLB draft, but we'll be doing that, of course, during what would normally be the Bear Raid segment in the infamous X-rated second half of the show. So it's going to be one of those rare broadcasts where 5 out of the 6 segments will actually be baseball-oriented. Hey, it happens sometimes when we end up doing things like this, and probably would have ended up being the case anyway with things that we're doing here. But, hey, happens. That ends up being the case. But still have one more segment to go before we get on into the good old X-rated back half of the broadcast. As, of course, we're going to go ahead and take a look at what your Oakland Athletics have on tap between now and the next time we come at you here on the show. Our next broadcast, of course, slated for next Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Between now and then, your Oakland Athletics have 4 more games to go in this 10-game homestand. Again, my apologies. I, for some reason, was saying it was a 6-game homestand, but I guess, the whole coloring of the games that have gone down kind of threw me off there a bit, and I don't know why I screwed up on that, but that's not the case. These will be the final 4 games of this current homestand at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum as a division rival comes into town for these next 4 games. Your Oakland Athletics battling out against the AL West Houston Astros in a 4-game series that begins tomorrow, July the 20th, and will go through this upcoming Sunday, the 23rd. Game 1 of the series, of course, is tomorrow night, the 20th, 6:40 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. First pitch at the Oakland Coliseum will be the same case for game number 2 of the series. That will be a 6:40 start as well on Friday, July the 21st, which will be Italian Heritage Night over at the Coliseum. Game 3 of the series will be a 6:07 start. 6:07 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Saturday, July the 22nd. That will be Country Music Fireworks Night out there at the Yard. I'll be out across the parking lot from the Coliseum over on 66th Avenue with members of Forever Oakland, as, of course, this Saturday is the 1-year anniversary of when Godfather Grizz Jones passed away and left us to go join up with the homies up at the Coliseum in the sky. So you don't see me in the stadium, or if you're not, in the area and maybe not going to the game, or even if you're going in beforehand, come and say what's up to your boy, the Corporal. Again, from 2 o'clock on, I'll be out there on Mob Alley with the gang from Forever Oakland. And the finale of this 4-game series, of course, will be going down on Sunday, July the 23rd. That will be a day game at the old Grand Collie in the East, 1:07 p.m. Pacific Standard Time start. Retro bobblehead giveaway for those of you that decide to make it out there to the Coliseum for that one. Yeah, probably going to be lucky if we win a single game in this series, because Houston just continues to be Houston until somebody else in the division can, actually finally overthrow them, at the end of the year. And that's not just overthrow them in the regular season, but, knock them out of contention in the postseason. Until further notice, whether you like them or not, whether you still are pissed off at them for the whole cheating scandal or not, the Houston Astros are still the dog that runs the AL West Yard right now. Obviously, the last couple of shows, it was the Rangers that have been leading up things at the division, and we'll see when we get to the standings if that is still the point in case in this point in time. But until the season ends and it's still that way, you really cannot count this Houston Astros team out, and would not be shocked at all if 3 out of 4 are taken by them, or if our beloved, for now, green and gold end up getting swept in that 4-game set. After that, of course, there'll be an off day on Monday, July the 24th, and then the A's will go and play a quick little 2-game series across the bay at Oracle Park in San Francisco, as they will have the first 2 of what technically it would be a 2-2 series. The 2 home games against the Midgets will be played out couple weeks from now, next month in August, but these, of course, are the 2 road games from that series. 2 games will be going down, of course, at Oracle Park in San Francisco against the San Francisco Giants. Game 1 is on Tuesday, July the 25th, a 6:45 p.m. start over there in China Basin, and it will also be a 6:45 p.m. start as well for the second and final game of that quick little 2-game trip across the bay to take on San Fran, as the A's and the Giants will face off at 6:45 p.m. on Wednesday, July the 26th, and then, of course, the A's will have an off day on the 27th, which is when we'll come at you for the next edition of the show. For anyone heading over to Oracle Park on July the 25th, regardless if you're an A's fan, a Giants fan, or if you're a fan of the other 28 teams out there that is down for and supports the cause of the A's staying in Oakland, of John Fisher selling the Oakland Athletics to somebody that will actually invest in keeping the team in Oakland, getting Howard Terminal built, and bringing the team back to how it was when Walter Haas ran the franchise, then on July the 25th, you should definitely go and take part in the Unite the Bay shindig that will be going on. Picture basically the reverse boycott, but at an opponent's visiting at an opponent's stadium, and obviously conveniently able to do this with Oracle Park being across the bay, and not shocked that the 68's Last Dive Bar and all the other same individuals that got involved with the reverse boycott on June 13th are putting this together again. They're going to be meeting up at South Beach Park, which is if you're over there, you can find a map of Oracle Park. It's basically that big, huge green lawn that is right before you get to the ballpark if you're coming up Embarcadero, either via car or Muni. Back in the day, there was a Ship restaurant there. I forgot what the restaurant and the Ship were called, but it was in basically that area. South Beach Park is where everyone will be meeting up beforehand for basically, if I remember correctly, they're going to be passing out black and white versions of the Cell shirts, which of course is a Hall of Fame item now, and there's multiple colors of that shirt being sold through the Oaklandish website, and as of right now, you can only purchase those through the website. Went and checked. They unfortunately do not have those shirts for sale at the downtown shop, and they don't even have them on sale here at the Diamond Shop right down the street from the studio and the house. Yeah, right now the only place you can get those Cell shirts for the time being is through the Oaklandish website. But you can also get a hold of those black shirts with white Cell writing on them if you go to the Unite the Bay protest on July the 25th over there at Oracle Park. And again, meet up at South Beach Park beforehand to do that. And for further information on that and to keep track of things with that, be sure to follow things from the Oakland 68s and the Last Dive Bar on Facebook and Twitter as we get closer to things with that on July the 25th. Regardless of how the A's are playing right now, I'd love to obviously see the A's layeth the smacketh down on those pumpkin-colored bastards across the bay, especially given the possible future. Who knows how many more Battle of the Bay games, unfortunately, there could be if this billionaire fishy fisher J. Cat John Mofo gets his damn wish and goes and fucks over the people of Vegas like he's been fucking us over for the last 2 decades with how he's been running things out here. Just obviously as an A's fan and just, somebody that's part of that whole, generation that is tied in the generations of the whole us versus, them, Oakland versus SF, Oakland versus the world sometimes. You always like to see your Cross Bay rivals get their teeth kicked in every now and then. Will that end up being the case given how the A's have been playing as of late, the last year and a half? We'll have to wait and see. But I would love to see the Oakland Athletics, either split this series or take the series over there. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. And obviously, for those of you orange and black yoo-hoos across the bay that are down with the cause of keeping the A's here in Oakland, and we've seen you out there. I know several and have known several Giants fans out there for years that have been always vocal of the fact that the A's should stay here. We appreciate your support and continuing to fight alongside with us. You other Giants fans out there that just want to be like the other trolls out there and want to see the A's leave so y'all can take over the market, you can sit on my middle finger and twirl with your bitch-ass trolling nonsense. And I appreciate, by the way, people out there like my homie Eric Mad Dog Manson, who's part of Forever Oakland. He's a Giants fan. For those of you that may have not heard me mention that before, he's one of the yoo-hoos out there that will actually call out the idiot portion of the Giant fan base that wants to be complete, total asshole trolls and wants to, see the A's move out of town. It's like, you knuckleheads forget that if it weren't for the way things have played out for y'all and having Peter McGowan and his group come into the picture, Giants would have been in Tampa Bay after 92. Hell, they almost went to Toronto back in 75, 76. So y'all got to remember that before you sit there and want to talk mess about your Cross Bay rivals possibly leaving the area. So that's what's on tap for the green and gold between now and next week. 4 games at home against the Astros to close out the current homestand, off day on the 24th, and then 2 quick days across the bay with the Giants before the off day on the 27th, and of course the next edition of AFR on the 27th as well. Whew. On that note, before we wrap up things here in the first half of tonight's show, got 2 weeks worth of transactions to go over here real quick for your Oakland Athletics. And that includes even a move that just ended up going down hours ago, right before we went on the air with this little bad boy here. We'll go ahead and go back to July the 8th with the transactions again because we got to do 2 weeks worth of stuff. On July the 8th, the A's optioned right-hand pitcher Freddie Tarnuk to the AAA Las Vegas Aviators, transferred right-handed pitcher Yasiel Rios from the 15-day IL to the 60-day IL as he's still recovering from a Raynaud's syndrome. And then their final move that they went down that put up that day was the aforementioned option Freddie Tarnok being activated from the 60-day IL. On July the 10th, the A's would send right-handed pitcher Rico Garcia outright to AAA Las Vegas. On the 12th, they would claim right-handed pitcher Adam Aller. The Seattle Mariners would claim right-handed pitcher Adam Aller off waivers. July the 14th, of course, would see the two of the A's top prospects get the call to the show as second baseman Tyler Wade, of course, would get sent outright to AAA Las Vegas as part of the moves that would go down. Third baseman Zach Geloff getting his contract selected. He, of course, was one of the two top prospects that was called up from AAA Las Vegas. The other one, of course, being Tyler Soderstrom getting the call to the show as well. Right-handed pitcher Freddie Tarnok was recalled from AAA Las Vegas that day as well. And two other moves that went down on July the 14th, the A's placing left-handed pitcher Richard Lovelady on the 15-day IL retroactive to July the 11th with a strained left forearm. And the final move on July the 14th was catcher Manny Pena being placed on the 10-day IL retroactive to July the 11th with a left wrist contusion. Next moves after that was one move that would go down on July the 17th as the A's would sign shortstop Jacob Wilson. On the 18th, the A's sent center fielder Ramon Laureano on a rehab assignment to AAA Las Vegas. And then, of course, the last bit of moves that went down today, the A's trading right-handed pitcher Shintaro Fujinami to the Baltimore Orioles for left-handed pitcher Easton Lucas. They claimed right-handed pitcher Tyler Scott off waivers from the Boston Red Sox. They released right-handed pitcher Garrett Action, and then, of course, sent right-handed pitcher Dangerous Danny Jimenez on a rehab assignment to the AAA Las Vegas Aviators. So, quick little couple months and done. Mount Fuji, his trip didn't last long here in Oaktown, and kind of, unfortunately, was hit with a little bit of mixed results during that brief time he was with the Oakland Athletics. Best of luck to you, Mount Fuji, and hopefully you have some better luck and actually enjoy a potential playoff chase run with the Orioles over there in the AL East. And that wraps up this week's edition of the recent transactions for your Oakland Athletics, which means, hey, it is almost time for our midway break here on tonight's show. But before we get on into that, of course, reminder that there is a fan question of the night sitting out there for all you lovelies to chime in on if you haven't had a chance to yet. And if you haven't had a chance to yet, since it's been up there at 5 o'clock this afternoon, make your way now over to either facebook.com/A's Fan Radio or at A's_fan. Let me start over with that again. To submit your response to tonight's fan question of the night, make your way over to either facebook.com/A's Fan Radio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter. Look for the post or tweet that says fan question of the night. Follow the directions on how to submit the response. And, of course, submit your response, and I will read off whatever response all of y'all put out there during the final segment of tonight's show. Two-part fan question for show number 340 of AFR. We want to, one, hear your thoughts on what A's fans in Mayor Tao accomplished up in Seattle before during the All-Star break. And, of course, two, we'd like to hear your predictions on what you think will go down with the Oakland Athletics in the post-All-Star break portion of the 2023 MLB season. Smoke them if you got them. Fire up that medical research. Go get a cold one. Whatever the hell you do when we take this break here in the middle of our show. It is 7th inning stretch time here on the belated All-Star break edition of A's Fan Radio. We come back at you with our infamous X-rated second half. We'll take a look at the current standings around MLB, take a look at the 2023 draft class for your Oakland Athletics, and, of course, wrap things up in the evening with the Oaktown soccer segment and your responses to the fan question of the night. We'll be right back at you here in a bit following the 7th inning stretch here on show number 340, the belated 2023 All-Star break edition of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland, for now, Athletics, A's Fan Radio. And welcome back, fellow A's fans, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be tuning in from on this Wednesday night, to what we historically here refer to as our infamous X-rated second half of the show, referred to as the X-rated half because back in the day, this is where we try to reserve all the foul-mouthed potty language for things with the show. But during the time frame that I've been running, and especially since the dynamic duo have been formed, the whole broadcast, technically, with our use of language and obscenities can turn into an X-rated segment, I guess you could say. But yeah, this historically has always been referred to as the X-rated second half of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland athletics. A's talk from the fans' point of view since 2003, and of course in the midst of our 20th and potential final season on the air. I say that because obviously if the MLB owners are stupid enough to actually allow the A's to relocate, then that's it for us, man. We are not going to continue doing this podcast if they end up ditching us for a hellhole that's hotter than the inside of Satan's anus out there in the Vegas desert. Hey, you already know the deal with Boss and I. We turned our backs on the Raiders when they left, turned our backs on the Warriors even though they only went across the bay. That's because a lot of the stuff that went down behind the scenes with that Warrior move. And, hey, it'll be the same case with the Oakland A's if they decide to be stupid enough and MLB stupid enough to allow them to become the Las Vegas A's. So we sit here and obviously wait to hope and see that things correct itself and, what should happen happens, and that's Fisher sells the team or, actually caves and gets something done here in Oakland and then sells the team after Howard Terminal is built, but preferably would rather him sell and keep the team here. But we'll have to, of course, sit here and wait and see how things go on with that. But until then, we are still here at you, coming at you here, I should say, on A's Fan Radio. And welcome back, of course, to show number 340, the belated All-Star Break edition of AFR, where it is the Legally 5150 Cpl Oaktown coming at you solo for this entire two-week recap edition of the show. Main man, the boss man, having the night off as he had coaching obligations that he had to deal with this evening, which kind of, kept him past when we would have planned to start the time at 8 o'clock. And then, of course, my wife ran late getting home, so I had to help out with prepping dinner. And that's why we started back at 9 o'clock, a little over an hour and a half ago with this bad boy. But let's not delay any further. Let's continue on down the road here on this 340th edition of the show since it came back from a 4-year hiatus in 2011, this belated All-Star Break edition of AFR. As we begin things here in the X-rated second half is the way we've always have since I took over doing the show, and at least when it's the part of the season or the part of the year where baseball is actually going on. And that's with taking a look at how things are currently looking at this point in time with the standings around Major League Baseball. We, of course, as always, start off in what's referred to as the junior circuit, the American League, which, of course, is the league that your Oakland Athletics have called home since they were a charter member of the AL back in 1901. And as always, we lead things off with the division that the A's have called home since it got realigned to 3 divisions of 5 teams. The AL West, where the Texas Rangers are still on top as we're 6 games in to the post-All-Star break portion of the schedule. The Rangers currently on top with a record of 58-39. Those Houston Astros, which of course will be coming into town for a 4-game series starting tomorrow against your Oakland Athletics, they are in the second place spot in the division with a record of 53-43, 4.5 games back. The Anaheim Angels are in that third spot. They're a game above 500 right now at 49-48. The Seattle Mariners are a game under 500 in the fourth spot at 47-48. And your Oakland Athletics are in the last place spot in the West with a record of 27-71. Let's go ahead now and see how things are shaping up around the rest of the AL at this point in time. Over in the AL East, it is no longer the Tampa Bay Rays in the top spot. It is now the Baltimore, well, actually it's a tie. Technically right now, they have it as a tie between Baltimore and Tampa Bay. Baltimore is currently 58-37. Tampa Bay is 60-39. Or actually, Tampa Bay, okay, my bad. Baltimore is in that first place spot right now, even though Tampa's got 2 more wins. It's because Baltimore has less losses. So let me rephrase that. Baltimore is the first place team technically at this moment at 58-37, with Tampa in the second spot at 60-39. basically the win percentage gives it to Baltimore. They have a 611 win percentage. Tampa Bay has a 606 at this point in time. Third place currently belongs to the Toronto Blue Jays. They are 53 and 43. The Boston Red Sox are in fourth. They, of course, just lost 2 out of 3 against the A's here in Oakland. They're sitting in that fourth place spot with a record of 51 and 46. And in the fifth and last place spot are the New York Yankees. They're 50 and 47. 9 games, basically, of separation here between these 5 teams, though the Yankees have kind of been a little bit of butt as of late. They're 2 and 8 currently in their last 10 games. But yeah, it's a division where the way things look right now, could technically on paper still be anybody's race, but we'll have to obviously see here as time goes on what moves these teams make to try to fortify themselves for the dog days of August and potential playoff runs down the stretch. Finally, to wrap up with things in the American League portion of the standings, it's that good old Dookie Booty AL Central, where yet again it's only one team above 500, and it's the Minnesota Twins, who the A's played 3 games against to open up things in the post All-Star break portion of the schedule. The Twinkies are in first place, and again are the lone team above 500 in that Dookie Booty AL Central with a record of 50 and 47. The Cleveland Guardians are second at 47 and 49. The Detroit Tigers are third at 43 and 52. The Chicago White Sox are fourth with a record of 48 and 57, and the Kansas City Royals are in last place still in that division. Second worst team in baseball, just behind your Oakland Athletics, unfortunately, at this point in time. Kansas City Royals currently at 28 and 69. So the race is still on to see who the shittier team in the AL and the league as a whole is in 2023. Is it the Oakland A's or the Kansas City Royals? We'll have to stay tuned and see what, of course, happens with that. Central, or AL West, I should start off with first here. Definitely is going to be really interesting to see how the Texas teams duke it out the rest of the way out. It's going to be really interesting to see, too, if Anaheim's going to stay there in the mix. Are they going to make any sort of moves to bolster their roster down there? Or are they going to end up doing what, a lot of people out there for some reason think they're going to do, and that's potentially deal Shohei Ohtani before the break is over with? You're only 9 games back of Texas, 4.5 games back in the wild card race. So I personally think, it'd be stupid to trade someone like Shohei at this point in time. Even if, the chances of you bringing him back on a new contract are slim to none maybe in the offseason. Just, you would think with that kind of, space right there, with 2 months basically still left to go in the season, you wouldn't want to go and trade a guy like that. You would actually think that Anaheim would want to make moves to bring in and bolster that to help protect Shohei, to help protect Mike Trout and other individuals in that lineup. And we'll have to wait and see with that. Going to be real interesting, too, to see if the guys up in the 206 that my longtime friend Dre roots for can somehow get their act back together here. They're only 5.5 back in the wild card race right now, and only a game under 500, but would be definitely interesting, especially for Dre and a couple other Seattle fans out there, for them to actually have little multiple year playoff action and maybe trying to make a little deep run if they can get to that. It would be really unfortunate if after seeing them, get a wild card run last year, if they go right back into missing the postseason this year. And the shit show going on here, you already know about that because we unfortunately talk about that week in and week out when we recap the games for the green and gold. That AL East, man, it's just going to be real interesting, period, to see how things ultimately play out with that. It's the only division in the entire AL where you got everybody playing above 500 ball right now. And pretty much everybody doing good for the most part, except Tampa Bay. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games, which allowed Baltimore to jump up there to the top spot. Baltimore's 8-2 in their last couple of games. Toronto, Boston, they're each 7-3 in their last 2 games. And just, the enigma that's the New York Yankees right now that my boy Ron and, of course, longtime homie Tad just cannot figure out what's going on with their beloved pinstripes this year. And it's, again, just everything in there. It's going to be interesting to see if, with how Baltimore's been playing this point, at 58-37, if they're going to be able to continue to ride that hot streak the rest of the way out and basically turn this into a dogfight between them and Tampa Bay. If Tampa's going to jump back up to the top like they pretty much were for almost the entire season up until this point, or if any of those other three teams in the division are going to somehow knock their way into the mix. And pretty much everybody in that division is in striking distance of the wild card right now. Tampa technically has the top wild card spot at this point in time. If the season were to end, Boston's 2.5 back, New York's 3.5 back. Just going to be real crazy just to see how things play out in that AL East. And also, as far as things go, to wrap up the stuff with the American League, will somebody actually be able to, do better than just barely 3 games above 500 in that, Dookie Booty AL Central? Or is this what we're going to see the rest of the way out? It's just, real crazy. Just, seeing how things are going in the East, seeing how things are going in the West, and then you just got this enigma of dog shit. That's the Central Division right there. And, my bad if I'm pissing off any of our homies that are fans of the teams in the Central. It's the reality, man. Y'all's division is monkey butt in 2023. Again, it'll be interesting to see if somebody can rise above the monkey buttness, or if that monkey buttness, dookie bootiness continues the rest of the way out in the Central. All right, on that note, let's move from the junior circuit to the senior circuit and see what it's looking like standing-wise at this point in time over on the National League side of things. It will begin the NL standings with what they're looking like at this point in time right now in the NL East, where it's the Atlanta Braves on top with a record of 61-33. The Philadelphia Phillies are now in the second place spot at 52-43. The Miami Marlins, who had been in that second place spot for a decent amount of time, they're third right now with a record of 53-45. Things continue to go backwards for the New York Mets. They're 45-50, though they are 6-4 in their last 10 games, so maybe they can ride that and try to finally turn things around, especially with all the talent that squad has over there in Queens. And last place in the NL East still belongs to the Washington Nationals. They sit at the bottom of that division with a record of 38-58. Over in the NL Central, it's not as shunty as the AL counterpart. You at least got 2 teams in the NL Central above 500, but pretty much everybody else has kind of, flatline damn near in that division. It's the Brewers currently sitting on top of the Central right now, as Milwaukee has a record of 53-43. The Cincinnati Reds are in second right now at 51-46. The Chicago Cubs are 5 games under 500 in that third place spot in the Central at 45-50. The St. Louis Cardinals sit at 43-53. They've won 8 of their last 10 games in what has basically been a season where the wheels damn near have completely fallen off for them, and they could potentially be the sellers for the first time, and it seems like forever. The Pittsburgh Pirates, who started off the season hot, have fallen back down to earth big time, as they are now the last place team in the Central. For a lot of times recently, it was that Cardinal squad that was the last place team in the division, but just Pittsburgh's just, like I said, fallen so far down that they've went past Chicago and St. Louis to fall into the 5th and last place spot in the Central at 42-54. That means it's, of course, time for the standings of what I've referred to here on this show for the last several years as the wild, wild NL West. And the Los Angeles Dodgers finally are sitting in that top spot that I and a few others out there probably had expected them to be for the majority of the season. Hadn't been the case. It seems like the Diamondbacks were running some weird, ungodly hot streak that kept them at the top for the last couple of times we've done this recaps, but it is the Dodgers now that are on top of the West with a record of 55-40. Only a game and a half ahead, though, of that Arizona Diamondbacks squad, so it'll be interesting to see what goes down with that. They're 54-42, and there's another team technically tied with them in that second place spot at 54-42, And it's a team we, of course, play across the bay next Tuesday and Wednesday in a quick little 2-game set at Oracle. That middle-of-the-pack team tied for second in the NL West right now is the San Francisco Giants. Fourth place belonging to a team that's similar to the New York Mets, has a whole bunch of talent, a whole bunch of money, and have not gotten the results they've wanted to so far this year. It's the team that I thought was going to be competing with the Dodgers and whoever was going to be in the middle of the pack for the NL West. But now the San Diego Padres right now, they're 6-4 in their last 10 games. So maybe like the Mets, maybe they can try to hopefully maybe get back on pace to what they were expected to do after that. But they're 5 games under 500 currently at this point in time. 4 games under 500, in that fourth place spot in the West at 46-50. And the Colorado Rockies, kind of being the Colorado Rockies that they've been known to be the last several years, and that's but the bottom of the Rockies, 37-59, last place in the West, and you have now had sightings of Colorado Rockies fans, that are basically as pissed off as us A's fans are, and are basically now demanding that their owner sell their team as well. So now you got multiple fan bases that want their shitty owners to sell their franchises at this point in time. It's just not just the A's anymore. You got the Rockies on the sell the team mixture as well. Man, it's going to be real interesting as we, of course, get into these last couple of months of the season, where pretty much it's right now 3-team race in the East, 2-team race really in the Central, and 3-team race out in the West, with whole bunch of yoo-hoos that could still possibly even get into the wild card mix. So it's going to be really hard to call how things go down here as the last couple months of the season goes on. I expect with the way they're playing right now that Atlanta, I'm not going to say Atlanta's a lock for winning that NL East, but it's 61-33. They're on paper looking like they could potentially run away with that. You got Philly 9.5 games back. The Phillies are known to go one way or another. Got a lot of course friends and family out there that are Philly fans or consider the Phillies to be their second team because of the fact that the A's are originally from Philly. So some of us out there, we always like to try to see the Phillies do some good. It'll be interesting to see, of course, if that young Miami Marlins squad is able to stay in the mix. Maybe see if the Mets will somehow bounce back, or if this is going to be pretty much what we see from the Mets the rest of the way out. And we already know what the case is with the Nationals. That Central Division, man, it's going to be real interesting to see if it really is just Milwaukee and Cincinnati fighting it out the rest of the way. Maybe the Cubs can somehow do things, but outside of that, I really see that basically being a 2-team race the rest of the way out. I don't expect St. Louis to come back at this point, and it would be a nice little story if Pittsburgh could somehow regain that fire that they had at the start of the season, but it's not really looking good, unfortunately, for the Pirates out there in the Central this upcoming season. NL West, I am glad to see a team that I have always favored to be the top dog in that division the last several years back in the top seat, and it will be interesting, though, to see if that young squad of Rattlesnakes can continue to keep pace with them. Really do not want to see the Pumpkins, do anything over there, because that would just, be something to have us more be pissed off about everything going on with our team, and then seeing those bastards across the bay end up having success. And I know that for those of you out there, like I said, I do appreciate you Giants fans out there that want to see the A's stay here and support the cause for the A's to stay here. That doesn't mean I want to see y'all do good against us, unfortunately, so y'all are going to have to learn to deal with that aspect of things. San Diego, would be nice to see them try to get back into the mix, maybe turn that into a 4-team dogfight the rest of the way out, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe it's unfortunately going to be similar for them this year that it has been up to this point with the Mets, and they just do not play up to the expectations that they do in 2023. That doesn't mean the team should not spend money, ladies and gentlemen, and I will continue to say this. Those of you out there that fall for that crap, you're allowing yourselves to be played by the bullshit, fraudulent crap that's Moneyball. Don't do that. If you all want that, then it's going to get to the point where all the owners are tightwad jackasses and don't spend any sort of money at all. You should want to see your team spend money like the Padres, like the Dodgers, like the Mets, like the Yankees. I mean, come on, man. Walter Haas at one point forked over the highest payroll in baseball for the Oakland Athletics here. You should want to see your damn ownership invest in your franchises. Doesn't mean it's going to always lead to success, but more often than not, it usually does. And just it also shows the commitment that ownerships have when they go and do stuff like that. So, yeah, stop falling for the BS that's Moneyball and being tightwads, and start wanting to see it more common that ownerships actually spend like those teams that spend that I just mentioned, and not act like tightwad jackasses like the Oakland Athletics and other squads out there. And that, of course, concludes the NL side of things, and, of course, wraps up this week's edition of the standings around Major League Baseball. Reminder, there is a fan question of the night sitting out there for y'all if you haven't had a chance to chime in on that bad boy yet. If you have not yet chimed in on that two-part, yes, there's two parts to the fan question of the night for this edition of A's Fan Radio, then go ahead and make your way over to either Facebook.com/A's Fan Radio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter right bloody now, and submit your responses to tonight's fan question of the night. Just look for the post or tweet that says fan question of the night. Follow the directions on how to submit your response. Submit your response, of course, and I will, as always, read off any and all responses that you yoo-hoos leave on our Facebook and Twitter pages during the final segment of tonight's show, which is basically 2 segments away at this point in time. That two-part fan question for tonight is, 1, we want to hear your thoughts on what A's fans and Mayor Tao accomplished in Seattle during the All-Star break. And, of course, we also, the second part, want to hear your thoughts and predictions on how things will play out for the Oakland Athletics in the post-All-Star break half of the 2023 season. Again, to get those responses in, Facebook.com/A's Fan Radio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter, and just look and follow the directions for any of the posts that say fan question of the night. We come back, it will be the final bit of baseball news that we'll be touching bases on this edition of the show, as we will take a look at the individuals that became a part of the 2023 MLB draft class for your Oakland Athletics. Be right back at you here in a bit on show number 340, the belated All-Star break edition of A's Fan Radio. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We still got 2 more segments here to go before it is all said and done on this belated All-Star break edition of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland, for now, Athletics. Creeping up here on the 2-hour mark on show number 340, the belated All-Star break edition of A's Fan Radio. Legally 5150 Cpl Oaktown coming at you solo for this edition of the broadcast, as the main man, the boss man, took the night off as he had some coaching obligations that he had to address that would have kept him off of the air this evening, and of course is also part of the reason why we ended up starting an hour later than planned. I also, of course, had to help out with getting things prepped for dinner and a few other things around the house, as my wife was running late from getting home from work today. Of course, the show that was supposed to go down last week, but a whole bunch of shit came up on my end that I had to address with at that time, and that's why we're coming here now. And, of course, if you're just tuning in, you missed out things in the first half, don't trip. You can always jump on the Twitch channel at any time, catch this recording of the show. It's usually up on the Twitch channel, I think, for like 40, 60 days because of me paying for Amazon Prime on this shit. And, of course, you can always catch the YouTube versions of this broadcast and the past broadcasts as well over on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/A's Fan Radio. Last piece of baseball-related stuff that we'll be touching bases on for this edition of A's Fan Radio, the MLB draft, of course, going down since last time we came at you. It, of course, went down over the weekend right before the All-Star break up there in Seattle, Washington. And you, of course, heard me mention earlier in the show that A's and baseball fans chomping down Rob Manfred's throat when he announced the A's first pick in that draft, getting sell the team chance thrown his way and looking completely, utterly pissed off as a result of that. And haha, that's what you get, you bastard. You make Roger Goodell look competent, Manfred. You were as bad as Bud Selig, Rob Manfred. Yeah. Anyway, here is who became part of the 2023 draft class for your Oakland Athletics. Their sixth pick, which of course would come in the first round, would be Jacob Wilson, who's a shortstop from Grand Union University. Pick number 39 would be Miles Naylor, who's a third baseman out of St. Joan of Arc Catholic. Pick number 41, which of course would come in the second round, would be Ryan Lasko, who's an outfielder from Rutgers. Pick 72, also in the second round, was Stephen Echevarria, a right-handed pitcher out of Milburn High School out in New Jersey. Next pick for the A's would be the 103rd pick of the draft to begin things for them in the fourth round. Their only pick of the fourth round, by the way, is they selected Cole Miller, a pitcher out of Newbury Park High School. Pick number 139, which came in the fifth round, was Nathan Dittmer, a pitcher out of Texas A&M. They would take Jonah Cox, who's an outfielder from Oral Roberts, with pick number 166 in the sixth round of the draft. By the way, these pick numbers that I'm giving you, these are the overall picks at that point in time when it gets to that slot. So if there's any sort of confusion, that way you're not getting all freaked out by what I'm doing here. So yeah, sixth round, pick number 166, Jonah Cox, outfielder from Oral Roberts, being taken by the A's. They would use their seventh round pick and the 196 overall pick in the draft on Nate Nankill, who's an outfielder from Cal State Fullerton. The eighth rounder for the A's, which was the 226th overall pick of the draft, was used on pitcher Jackson Finley out of Georgia Tech. At pick number 256 in round 9, they took Corey Aviant, who's a pitcher out of Wingate. Tom Resner, a pitcher out of East Strasburg U, was taken in the 10th round at pick number 286. Drew Conover out of Rutgers, he's a pitcher. He was taken in the 11th round with the 316th overall pick. The 346th overall pick was used in the 12th round on Cole Kahn, who's a catcher out of the University of Illinois at Chicago. With the 376 overall pick in the 13th round, the A's would select pitcher Will Johnstone out of Texas A&M. Pick number 406, which went in the 14th round, was used on Luke Mann, who's a third baseman out of Missouri. In the 15th round, the A's would use the 436th overall pick on Will Simpson, who's an outfielder from Washington. Pick number 466 in round 16 would go to pitcher Ryan Brown out of Oregon State. In the 17th round, they would use pick number 496 on Colby Halter, who's a second baseman out of Florida. Round 18 would see pick number 526 be used on Derek Tarplay Jr., who's an outfielder out of Brownsville Area High School. Pick number 556 in the 19th round was used on a pitcher, Derek Salata, out of Illinois State. The 586th overall pick in the 20th round, the A's would use on Diego Barrera, a pitcher out of Loyola Marymount University, and that was it right there. Those are all of the picks that your Oakland Athletics ended up making in the 2023 MLB draft. They've already signed their top pick, Jackson Wilson, the shortstop out of Grand Union University. He actually was in Oakland earlier this week to sign his contract, and they've also since then have signed four of those prospects. Just give me a quick sec, or four of those draftees, I should say. I don't know why I said prospects. They will eventually be prospects, but that, of course, will be when they end up finally reporting down there to the A's, down there to the minors for the A's. As of 2 days ago, they had signed their top pick and five others from that draft class. Just give me a second here. I want to make sure that everything's loaded here so I can tell you who else besides Wilson signed and how much they signed for. Pretty much for those of you unfamiliar with the time frames and what they got to work with as far as signing their draft picks, and this is obviously not just for the A's, this is for the rest of the teams in Major League Baseball as well. Each club has until 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, July the 25th, to come to terms with their draft selections. If a player has exhausted his college gate eligibility, he can sign at any time up until 1 week prior to next year's draft. Draft and follow-up picks, high school and junior college players selected after the 10th round who attend a 2-year college after the draft can sign with their selected teams for up to $250,000 up until a week prior to the following year's draft. And players drafted from round 11 on do not count against the bonus pools unless their signing bonuses exceed $150,000. Any amount over that total will count against the pool. As mentioned, and I don't know why they put Grand Union he's actually from Grand Canyon University, so that's not a mess up on my part. It's a mess up on what I was reading there for him. But yes, they signed their top pick, Jacob Wilson, a shortstop out of Grand Canyon University, signed him for $5,500,000, pick value of $6,634,000. They also signed Miles Naylor, who they picked at 39th in the draft. They signed him for just a little over $2,200,000. Ryan Alasco was signed as well to just a little under $2 million. Steven Echevarria was signed a little over $3 million. It looks like here. And Cole Miller signed as well, signed to $1 million. He's the guy that's out of Newberry Park High School. And also, okay, well, maybe I'm reading a lot more here. It seems like actually looks like that maybe they've signed, well, this was as of the 18th that they had signed Wilson and 5 others. So we'll have to sit here and obviously wait and see how many of these other Yoo-hoos that they have end up still have. Okay, basically, if I'm looking here, yeah. So they have a couple of individuals. Okay, let's see here. Who else they signed here? Let's see. Nathan Detmer signed. Jonah Cox, it looks like, signed. Nate Nankill signed as well. And I don't know, maybe I'm reading this stuff wrong. But yeah, Wilson and 5 others at least have been signed to Major League contracts. And again, the A's have until the 25th, so basically next Tuesday, to get those individuals signed, except for the cases that I broke down here with that. And I guess obviously I'll report on anything with those in the transactions for the A's when we get to that point in time. And that wraps it up for the draft class of 2023 for your Oakland Athletics. And the last bit of baseball news that we will discuss on tonight's edition of the show, which means, hey, it's time for the final reminder, the final official reminder for the fan question of the night here on show number 340 of A's Fan Radio. I'll, of course, do an unofficial reminder right before I get into the last segment of tonight's show, but this is the final official reminder. So if you haven't had a chance to do so, you better make your way over to either Facebook.com/A's Fan Radio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter and get those responses in, because as soon as I get done checking in on what the Roots have been up to since we last came at you and what they have on tap between now and next week, as soon as I get done with the Oaktown soccer segment, I'm heading over to Facebook and Twitter to get up those responses that y'all have left for us tonight. So again, Facebook.com/A's Fan Radio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter. Look for the post or tweet that says Fan Question of the Night. Follow the directions on how to submit that response. Submit the response, obviously. And then yours truly will read off all y'all's responses once I get done talking Oaktown soccer-related shenanigans. 2-part fan question for tonight's edition of the show. Part 1, we want to, of course, hear your thoughts on what A's fans and Mayor Tao accomplished in Seattle during the All-Star break. And Part 2, we, of course, want to hear your predictions or thoughts on how you think the Oakland Athletics will fare in the post-All-Star break portion of the 2023 MLB season. Oakland Roots news and, of course, the responses to the fan question of the night coming your way, along, of course, with my final thoughts of the night here in a bit, following the final break of show number 340, the belated 2023 All-Star Break edition of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland, for now, Athletics A's Fan Radio. Now, anybody that, of course, knows me real well, knows my family real well, y'all know who that little piece of music for our final break goes out to, and that, of course, is my lovely, long now missed 3 years almost now from being gone from us, my second mother, the late Diana Engstrom, who, of course, 3 years tomorrow will have been gone from us following being killed in an arson fire, that took her up in Reno, Nevada. And I guess I had my dates wrong. Unfortunately, tomorrow's actually the 1 year anniversary of when Godfather Grizz Jones left us as well. So definitely be a period of mourning for not just my family, but also for the extended Oakland sports family out there as well. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's the final segment of tonight's edition of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland athletics. A's talk from the fans' point of view since 2003, and of course, ongoing here, celebrating until it is over with, our 20th and hopefully not final season on the air, but we'll have to still wait and see what goes on with that. But it is the 20th anniversary season here on A's Fan Radio. Our belated 2023 All-Star Break edition of the show, since we ended up not doing a broadcast last week because I had some personal business to deal with. Basically, I'm in a dispute kind of with my former landlord. He still owes me some money that he hasn't paid me. I moved out of there at the end of March. It's freaking almost the middle of July, damn near the end of July now. 3 going on 4 months, dude. I want my money, pure and simple. But I've got that handled. I got help from the VA getting that addressed in the moment. So hopefully that does finally get handled sooner rather than later. But that is what held up things last week. And my phone basically, I thought, died on me, but it didn't. But my cell phone's basically on its last leg, so I got to get that handled as well. Otherwise, I'll have to figure out another way for Boss Man to call in for these shows. But yeah, those are kind of what ended up putting the wrench into things on this. But hey, we're here at you, right here, right now, and getting ready to wrap things up as we are already past the 2-hour mark here on the show, this edition of the show. And hey, maybe I actually will wrap up this broadcast before midnight tonight, but that obviously depends on how long things go here with the Oaktown soccer segment and also how many responses y'all have out there for tonight's fan question of the night. And my final thought, you never know, it could drag on for a good 10-plus minutes. It's been notorious for Boss and I to rant during our final thoughts, so we'll have to ultimately see what happens with that. And yeah, that was your unofficial final reminder, by the way, that if you haven't gotten a response to the fan question of the night, to go do that right now over on our Facebook page or our Twitter page, facebook.com/AsFanRadio, at A's_fan_radio on Twitter. Post or tweet, fan question night, fall direction, submit response, and I will, of course, read off your responses once I get done checking in on what has gone down since the last time we came at you here with the Oakland Roots Sports Club. And, of course, obviously, as well, we will check out on things that the Oakland Roots have on tap between now and next week's edition of the show here on this week's edition of the Oaktown Soccer segment. We go back to July the 8th. For a road trip match that the Roots embarked on as they played the second game of what's basically now the back half of the 2023 USL Championship season. Road trip out to Tampa Bay to battle it out with the Tampa Bay Rowdy. Your Oakland Roots, unfortunately, getting shut out after 90 minutes in that road trip as they would lose 3-0 to the Rowdy in Tampa Bay on July the 8th. They would come back home for a home match against the Memphis 901 FC at Cal State East Bay, which is serving as their temporary home this year after things kind of screwed up Laney being able to be used this year. This game, by the way, was a makeup game, as this was originally supposed to be the home opener when things looked like that they would be going down at Laney College this year. For those that forgot, Laney football redid the turf setup over there with the field and took a little bit longer than planned because of the wet winter we ended up having. And unfortunately, with how long that took, the field turf that the Roots put in to play on over there at Laney just would not settle right. They ended up postponing that match against Memphis 901 FC that ended up going down, rescheduled on July the 12th at Cal State East Bay. And, of course, after that, they ended up having to move the home games out to Cal State East Bay for the rest of the year. That rescheduled game that was supposed to be the home opener, of course, that was rescheduled for July the 12th, it ended up playing out to a 1-1 draw between your Oakland Roots and the Memphis 901. Next matchup after that, which of course is the most recent match that your Oakland Roots partook in, they made the trip down to Monterey Bay to take on the team that co-host of the show, Dan Wolfe, a.k.a. Dano, likes to cheer for. That, of course, would be Monterey Bay FC, who is in their second year now in the USL Championship. The Roots would finally get back on the W side of the column with this match going down. So, unfortunately for Dano, he saw an L. The guys, of course, support the Roots. They got to see a W for the first time in a little while, as the Oakland Roots would pick up a 3-1 victory over Monterey Bay FC on July the 15th. The Roots have 2 games on tap between now and the next time we come at you here on A's Fan Radio. The first of those 2 games is a little over 3 days from now. That, of course, will be going down this upcoming Saturday, July the 22nd. It will be another road trip for Oakland Roots SC, as they will head out to El Paso to take on the El Paso Locomotive FC in a road contest that will start at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You have 2 ways of being able to watch that road game, by the way. You can either catch that game, as you can with all USL Championship games, over on ESPN+. You, of course, since it is a road game, can watch that match go down on KTVU Plus if you happen to have KTVU Plus. Again, usually for road games, you got 2 options for watching matchups. That'll be the case with this matchup between the Roots and El Paso Locomotive on the road in El Paso. As, of course, that game will go down on July 22nd, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And, again, you can watch that match on either ESPN Plus or on KTVU Plus. After that, the Roots will come back home the day before the next edition of A's Fan Radio for a home contest on Wednesday, July the 26th at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time over there at the soccer pitch at Cal State East Bay in Hayward on what will be singles night, as the Las Vegas Lights FC comes into the East Bay to take on the Oakland Roots. So you already know that us A's fans that are obviously Roots fans are going to want to see a Vegas franchise get stomped into the ground, and should be an easy W, I would think, for the Oakland Roots, because the Las Vegas Lights are just playing like straight ass so far in this 2023 USL Championship season. Again, road trip against the El Paso Locomotive on the 22nd at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And, of course, the Roots will be back home next Wednesday, the 26th, at Cal State East Bay for a 7 p.m. match against the Las Vegas Lights FC. Let's go ahead now and take a look at what the current standings are in the Western Conference of USL Championship. At one point, you had the Roots sitting in the 5th place spot. They fell down to the what would be the last playoff spot. And it's going to be obviously really interesting to see here how much anything has changed with those standings, since it's been over 2 weeks since the last time we checked in on these standings. And what do you know, just like with the MLB stuff, I got to sit here and wait on the USL stuff to load. Isn't it just lovely when you got to sit here and play hurry up and wait with frickin' technology? Anyway, here are the current standings in the Western Conference of USL Championship. Sacramento Republic is in the first position right now at this moment with a record of 9-2-8 for a total of 35 points. San Antonio FC is second with a record of 9-3-7 for 34 points. El Paso Locomotive, who, of course, the Roots will be taking on this upcoming Saturday in El Paso, are in the 3rd place spot at this point in time with a record of 9-5-5 for 32 points. San Diego Loyal is 4th with a record of 8-5-6 for 30 points. Colorado Springs Switchbacks are in the 5th spot at 9-10-1 for 28 points. Your Oakland Roots are currently in the 6th position of the conference with a record of 7-6-6 for a total of 27 points. Monterey Bay is technically tied with them in point totals right now at 27 points, so they're locked in right now at the 7th spot technically, but we'll go ahead and say it's a tie for 6th between your Oakland Roots and Dano's Monterey Bay FC. They are 7-7-6 for 27 points, and if the season were to end right here, right now, Phoenix Rising FC would have that 8th and final playoff spot in the conference locked up. They're currently 6-5-7 with a total of 25 points, and there's technically 2 other teams teams tied with them right now for that 8th place spot. Those two other teams being New Mexico United, who are 7-7-4 for a total of 25 points, and Orange County SC is tied with them for 25 points as well. Their record currently right now is 7-9-4. Rio Grande Valley FC is in the 11th place spot with a record of 5-5-9 for 24 points. And in the last place position, a team that only has one win so far this season with 9 losses and 8 draws. That is, of course, the Las Vegas Lights, who will be coming in to face your Oakland Roots next Wednesday over at Cal State East Bay. For those of you, of course, that haven't had a chance to get any yet, there's still plenty of game action left in the 2023 USL Championship season. So be sure to get your hands on a Oakland Roots membership and go and catch the remainder of the home action in 2023. You, of course, can get those memberships online at oaklandroots.com/SC/memberships. And, of course, you'll always find some familiar faces out there. If you haven't had a chance to go and check out the Oakland Roots, you'll find a good, decent amount of faces that you'll recognize from the left field and right field bleachers from A's games out there in Oakland Roots games. As you know, just like there's supporters out there at the Coliseum for A's games, the Oakland 68s, of course, are supporters, just one of many supporter groups that endorse and root and cheer on the Oakland Roots. So definitely go out there, check it out if you haven't had a chance to yet, especially if you go and hang out there with the Oakland 68s or any of the various supporter groups out there. They definitely will treat you right and make sure you have a good time and enjoy yourselves. And that, of course, wraps up this week's edition of the Oaktown Soccer segment, which means, hey, if you haven't by now gotten a chance to chime in on that, or maybe you're going to throw it in right now while I'm blabbling away and getting ready to quote my famous bleacher uncle, Ballistic Bill. If you haven't had a chance to this point in time to submit a response to the fan question of the night, then as Ballistic Bill would say, guess what? Your time's up, bitch! It is time now to read off any and all responses that you yoo-hoos out there have fired off to us for tonight's edition of the fan question of the night here on A's Fan Radio. For some reason, if you didn't get a chance to chime into that, or you just didn't feel like it, you just wanted to sit back and hear me ramble about everything that we talked about on tonight's edition of the show, then don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. Don't trip. Don't have a frickin' aneurysm or spaz out over it. We try to always have a fan question here week in and week out on A's Fan Radio. So if you didn't get a chance to chime in on it today, don't trip about it. Get it, your responses when we do the next edition of the show next Thursday night. Again, it was a 2-part fan question for this edition of A's Fan Radio. Part 1 being, as I go and I'm clicking on stuff that I don't mean to be clicking on here. God, I just love when I do that. 2-part fan question again for tonight's edition of AFR. Part 1 being, we wanted to hear your thoughts on what A's fans and Mayor Tao accomplished in Seattle during the All-Star break. Part 2, of course, being we wanted to hear predictions from y'all on how the Oakland Athletics will do in the post-All-Star break portion of the 2023 MLB season. Not seeing any responses from any of y'all over on the Bird app at the moment, and checking things over on Facebook, didn't get any responses from y'all there either. So, hey, it is what it is. Night where y'all don't bother to respond to the fan question of the night. Hey, no biggie, is what it is. So I guess what I'll do is I'll give my answer to the fan question of the night. Maybe that's what I'll start doing when this ends up happening, or just going forward. Even if y'all do submit responses, I'll give y'all my thoughts on things. So, yeah, since none of y'all chimed in, I guess I will be the lone response to the fan question of the night here on the show. Let's see, my take on part 1, thoughts on what A's fans and Mayor Tao accomplished in Seattle during the All-Star break. Proud of y'all. Continuing to just fight forward and just continue to put foot to asphalt, fingers to emails, letters, social media, just continuing to let the world know that what's being done to us and the city of Oakland is 100% wrong, and that it's a wrong that needs to be righted. And that's either the owners voting against this relocation and forcing this jackass tightwad billionaire named John J. Cat Fisher, John Fisher, whatever the fuck you want to call him at this point, forcing him to either get something done here and then he pumps and dumps, or kick him out of the picture altogether and get a new ownership in here that actually will bring some damn self-esteem that's been lacking since the Haas era and get Howard Terminal done and actually return the A's to some form of greatness like it used to be back in the day. And again, Cal alumni are natural-born leaders, ladies and gentlemen, unless, of course, her name is Zinni Abraham. So definitely proud of what Mayor Tao did. And for you who's out there that may think it's too little too late, if you want to think that's whatever. But for those of you that aren't thinking that, regardless of the outcome, Mayor Tao needed to do that. I'm glad she did that, and I hope she continues to fight forward with all that. And y'all in the city council need to get behind her and start supporting her, too, on this and making it heard out there. Otherwise, again, I'll start calling for certain individuals to get replaced, specifically still if they want to continue to be the knuckleheads they have been against this whole thing. I have no problem endorsing other people to run against Carol Fife and Noel Gallo going forward to make sure things change in their districts, and I hope individuals in those people's respective districts continue to voice their opinions to those individuals. And if they don't want to listen, then start looking for people that will listen and actually start getting things done and running things in that district. But yeah, big props to Mayor Tao. Keep the fight up, and big props to all of you from the Oakland 68s, the A's fan base, and just baseball fans in general that were up in the 206 for the All-Star break that threw down for the cause and supported us. My response to part 2 of the fan question. Predictions on how the Oakland Athletics will do in the post-All-Star game portion of the 2023 All-Star 2023 season. My prediction, unfortunately, is pain for your green and gold. I fully expect Rooted in Straight Donkey Ass 2.0 to continue out both on and off the field. It's going to be really interesting to see who's still here and who isn't here once the trade deadline comes and goes here in a couple weeks. We've already seen Mount Fuji get sent out the door. There's probably a couple other cats that are going to be sent out the door before all things are all said and done, because it's clearly with how garbage they are that they're going to be sellers again and probably be sending off some of these veterans that they signed to deals at the beginning of the year. I unfortunately fully expect the shit show shenanigans on the field and off the field to continue going forward. It'd be great if I would be proven wrong. It'd be great to see these guys literally channel Major League in spite of the bullshit and turn things around and just start dominating the rest of the way out and forcing the hand of the team to be able to stay here. That'd be fucking fabulous if that happened, but fully doubt that will happen. But hey, prove me wrong. I doubt I'll be proven wrong on that, but yeah, prove me wrong if you can. So yeah, since y'all didn't want to give responses, there's my responses to the 2-part fan question of the night for this edition of the show. And again, you didn't get a response in this week because obviously none of y'all chimed in on it. Again, it's all good. Be sure to fire away when you see next week's edition of the fan question of the night go out at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. As always, for the latest information pertaining to your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland, for now, athletics, be sure to check us out at aysfanradio.com. Like us and follow us on Facebook, since they've now had us change over to the new format for pages on Facebook. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/AsFanRadio. Follow us over on the Bird app. That's Twitter, of course, at A's_fan_radio. You can catch past recordings of the show and more, as always, over on YouTube at youtube.com/AsFanRadio. And, of course, all of our live broadcasts, unless noted otherwise, take place right here on twitch.tv/AsFanRadio. And, of course, as you see right there, my dumbass forgot to update things on what the next upcoming broadcast is. That obviously is not the case. Show number 340 is happening right now. I just forgot to that was the one lone thing I forgot to update before tonight's show. So I'll pull that image up instead that has the upcoming broadcast information for both this show and our sister broadcast, The Bear Raid. The next edition of A's Fan Radio will be show number 341, not show number 340. That's obviously happening right now. Show number 341, and of course will go down next Thursday, July the 27th, right here on twitch.tv/AsFanRadio at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That means, hey, it is time now for the last bit of things that will go down here as God, I'm just messed up royally. Should have clicked on that first. Now let me start over that again. Time now for the final bit of stuff that will go down on tonight's broadcast, and that is, of course, my final thoughts of the night. Again, as always, thank you everybody that tunes in, week out to this show. Regardless if you've been following us since the beginning 20 years ago, if you jumped on and started following us when the show returned from its hiatus in 2011, if you started tuning in during the beginning of the decade run of the Dynamic Duo in 2013, or if you've been joining in and listening since any point in time since the Dynamic Duo started and we celebrated our 10th anniversary. Maybe you're a new listener here in our 20th anniversary season. Thank you for the support. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Pray and continue to hope that we're not going to be going away from y'all and this will be our final year. But again, they end up relocating. That's going to be it for us. And then if you want to continue to hear me and the guys talk, you're going to have to start following the Cal podcast on things here as well. Again, just want to go ahead and mention to everybody out there that we at Forever Oakland will be celebrating the life of Godfather Grizz Jones on Saturday, the 22nd, starting at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time out there at 559 66th Avenue, a.k.a. Mob Alley. Also, still waiting on word on when they're going to finally put up the official signage and changeover, because that portion of 66th Avenue is going to be renamed in honor of Godfather Grizz Jones. The anniversary of his passing, I guess I got the dates mixed up. The anniversary of his passing is actually tomorrow, so it's a day that kind of will hurt me in more ways than one. Is again, it's the third anniversary of when my aunt was taken from us in that arson fire in Reno, Nevada, and also, again, 1 year removed since Godfather Grizz Jones went to the Coliseum in the sky. And just two individuals that I love and miss. You know, Auntie, obviously, because she basically was my second mother, and it's something that to this day just, you know, still hurts. It feels like there's an emptiness there, and it's still, I feel, going to be a long time before myself and anyone really in the family is able to get over that, if we ever do at all. And same really goes as well for Godfather Grizz Jones, man. He was basically another one of those sports uncles that I've made the acquaintance of having for so many years out there. He was part of the reason why myself, Christy's cousin 510 guy, and a couple individuals back in 2004, we started a little A's tailgate group of our own, kind of modeled after the 66 Mob in Forever Oakland, that was called the Nightcrawlers. It only lasted 1 year, unfortunately, but, you know, that was kind of like my early introduction to meeting with and associating with and, you know, getting the peek into the world that Grizz had going on at that point. And, you know, many years later, reconnected with him finally and got involved with what he was doing with Forever Oakland in an unofficial capacity, roughly about 2016, 2017, and then kind of, officially becoming part of Forever Oakland in 2018, when, after, of course, the Raider relocation stuff ended up going down, the focus shifted towards, not really shifted towards things. Grizz had always done the cleanups out there around 66th Avenue and throughout different parts of Oakland. Just kind of that focus got even more emphasized and eyeballs put to. And obviously as well, up until he left us last year, was a vocal part of, trying to keep the A's here, getting things done with ASEG, speaking out against the Warriors leaving, part of things that obviously with that antitrust lawsuit to try to force the NFL and the Raiders to basically do an Oakland version of the Cleveland Compromise. Just an individual that impacted so many people in and around Oakland and the Bay Area, not just, sports fans, but just everyday people. Talked to basically everyone from all walks of life, from individuals like myself to sports fans, all the way up to the politicians and the big power players that are around the city of Oakland. And just, hurts having, not having people like Grizz, like my aunt, around in our lives anymore, because you almost feel like you're, lost to some extent. But at the same time, just like how I got a big circle around me that is my family and my extended family that has helped keep this all together with dealing with the loss of my aunt 3 years on, it's the same case as well with still dealing with the loss of Grizz a year on. Just that big, huge, super extended family across, not just Oakland sports, but multitudes of sports, because you had fans from all these teams come through, regardless if it was baseball or football, when they were doing stuff out there, and check things out. So, yeah, it's obviously going to be a tough couple days for not just the members of the Forever Oakland household and familia, but obviously the Salmonen household as well, as we deal with the anniversaries of the passings of my Aunt Diana Inkstrom and the passing, of course, of Godfather Grizz Jones. But hey, we will continue to keep your memories lit and going on forever, and continue to make sure that we continue to do stuff that y'all loved and supported and wanted to see done to make the community of Oakland and the greater East Bay better in all aspects of life. As always, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the cast here at A's Fan Radio, I am the Legally 5150 Cpl Oaktown. Y'all take care and enjoy what is left of this Wednesday night. The views and opinions of our cast, our guests, and our listeners are in no way, shape, or form affiliated with the Oakland Athletics or Major League Baseball. Good night, Walter Haas. Good night, King Al. Wish you would still do something to strike down your crack-headed, bowl-cut son so that way the damn Raider brand can get sent back to Oakland. Good night, Auntie Di-Di. Love you and miss you on the eve of 3 years since you were taken from us. And, of course, love you and miss you as well, Godfather Grizz Jones, as we are on the eve of the 1-year anniversary of when you left us to head to the Coliseum in the sky. And, of course, make sure I don't forget, good night, Chesty Puller, wherever you may be, looking over the souls of the Marines, past, present, and dumb enough to be part of Uncle Sam's misguided children in the future. Hey, wrap it before you tap it. Don't drink and drive. Same old bull crap I used to get told before every safety brief back when I was still an active duty member of Uncle Sam's Misguided Children. Because we want to see y'all right back here. Same bat time, normal bat day, same Twitch channel when the next edition of A's Fan Radio smacks y'all upside the head next Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until then, and as always, and hey, even if our beloved baseball team may not feel this way going forward, hopefully it changes, I want you, of course, all of y'all out there forever and always to stay Oakland, my friends. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your night. We'll see you again on the 27th.
Let's celebrate.